Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of some UPL action. My name is Travis T. I am joined here with my ever so fantastic co-caster, Rebel Thoughts. How you doing today, buddy? like,
Assuming that fixed everything. Okay, yeah, that's not on
that
my.
fixes it.
Yeah, that fixes it. So again, I was pretty sick to start things off today. The thing that revives me is number one, League of Legends, and number two, the glorious mantle of Eric Desarax Beltran in your background, man. Like, praise be Eric, bro.
Dude, I wanted to, have a TriCast going on here, so I brought him in forcefully, but he's been brought into today's broadcast, and we got a fun matchup here as we get to see two collegiate squads. Rebel, you're a magnet for these collegiate teams whenever they go against one another, so walk me through what we got today.
Yeah. So first things first, we're getting a good look at what is kind of a year's progress for the side of UT Dallas. UT Dallas, they had such long-standing players that were around for a good amount of time. And over the last year, 2 years, they've kind of been restructuring from all of the players that were part of that initial roster. And this is perhaps the first iteration that's really had, I think, 4 or 5 full players that are different from what they had started with way back when they started in like 2017, 2016 area. So they've had great success. They were top 8 inside of the Southern Division in collegiate, which means that they're competing for playoffs. They're going to try to sneak in through some of the tougher teams like Winthrop and St. Thomas, which is in their group as well. And Bay State, it's actually Bay State Blue, so this is their secondary roster that's going to have, it's fostering a fair amount of talent. It's kind of cool because you don't get to see a lot of collegiate rosters that are rocking 2 full ones. Maryville comes to mind, and obviously I think Harrisburg also comes to mind. Bay State is one of the only other ones that has a full secondary roster, and that's built around a lot of players, but the big one that I think a lot of people would recognize is Jurassic, which is somebody that we're keeping our eye on for a game like this.
Yeah, has a lot of history following this player here. More time in the Academy League, and honestly, throughout amateur, it would be disingenuous to not talk about the fact that they've been on so many different powerhouses. Old Radiance, Polar Ace, immediately ones that come into our minds, and has been a conversation for a very strong marksman player. The question is, how does Jurassic perform here in the collegiate scene? Seeing how they're able to mold into what these players are going into, some of the chaos, some of the different nuts and bolts that are kind of unscrewed and unhinged from here and there. Keep my eye to see exactly how they adapt. We're going into the draft here, Rebel.
Yeah, we're kicking things off pretty quickly. It's worth noting also that this is not UT Dallas's primary roster. Right now, Yuhung Hukiri Lee, or Yuhung Hukiri Lee, my apologies for messing up that name because I'm sure I did, is not eligible right now, nor is their mid laner, who has been long-standing as well. Good sir. Neither of them are playing today, which is kind of a detriment. Both of them are incredibly talented players. We're going to see Objective Bounty and Hemmel make a bet. I think Hemmel we've seen before, but Objective Bounty is definitely making a debut, at least here on the UPL, especially because this roster has been playing together all split inside of collegiate as well. This is a bit of a mix-up, and for a team as UT Dallas, which is completing for what is a playoff spot, for one of the first times that we've really seen this roster really be competitive inside of UPL, this comes at a pretty bad time because this is another mid-tier team in Bay State Blue, hitting at 2-2 right now, right below them in the standings, that could strike while the Iron is hot to kind of claim a little bit of territory against this UT Dallas team, who's going to come into the end of the split and have to play a lot of very talented collegiate squads as well.
Yeah, UT Dallas too. Like they have this history coming in here from UPL in general. Whenever they've came in and competed, this is them wanting to show up inside of the UPL. They haven't actually had a good long run inside of the UPL, and now they're in position to start swinging for playoffs. So I feel like there's a lot of pressure for this squad of players to really want to perform. Where history hasn't been to their benefactor, as these bands coming out fairly slow at the moment. But they are definitely showing some focus here. Gwen, Tom Kench, and Viego banned.
Yeah, nothing shocking about protection, I think, for Jurassic being taken away. I seem to remember before Sword Blue, who is now, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head for Maroon, but Potato was the starting support for at least a while for Bay State and didn't have a ton of problems. That bot lane had, it didn't have the greatest performances when they were kind of figuring things out, but eventually I think Potato really did come around to be a solid contributor. And I don't disagree with the option for Sword Blue because I think Sword Blue is incredibly talented as well. But Potato was somebody that played alongside another ADC and had some of these more protective type roles back in the day when we were talking about them in their initial kind of debuts in UPL and things like that. So couple that with the fact that it's Jurassic, who again, he plays some very kind of solo 1v5 type carries. It's not shocking to see that one get removed pretty much instantaneously from his wheelhouse.
Karma off the table as well, not having anything to deal with that enchanter being the most pesky of enchanters in the game for a lot of players. Last ban, and then it's going to be UT Dallas, who's going to be selecting their first pick. Some interesting champions left on the table.
So I'm actually a little bit disliking what I'm seeing at the moment for the Caitlyn ban. Because Objective Bounty and Hemmel are in, Desori, I feel like, has defaulted to going for a bit more weak side champions, things like Ornn and Malphite over the course of the season. But the one thing he's gone back to when he needs to be in a carry position is actually Akali. He's an incredibly talented Akali player on the top side. And so now with a backup jungler, backup mid laner, maybe they're willing to put a little bit more of the carry potential into Desori. And so I'm looking for that Akali to be some of that linchpin potentially to throw into the top side for wanting more experienced members of this particular iteration of the roster.
Yeah, but check this out. There's so many other power picks that are up too, and Ryze is one of them. It's an easy pick. A lot of these mid laners are like, it's too strong just to leave open. I'm gonna have to take it.
Yeah, just wanting to deny it for Malik as well, who's got a pretty interesting champion pool, so I would be remiss if I didn't discuss some of the fact that, like, Ralik's pool is mostly unaffected by, like, the Ryze ban, so I'm curious to see what he's going to be able to bring out. But this, of course, leaves the Jinx up on the table if you were to want something like that. This would be a really unfortunate pick. Syndra is, like, I don't have too much of a problem with the Syndra pick. There was a time and a place where I considered it really bad, but I'm very upset by this because Ralik's got such a much more interesting pool. I know Seraphine's in there, I know Ahri's in there, I know the Fizz is in there. You think you can hide it from me, but you cannot, Ralik. And this is against the control mage, and I'm like, okay, maybe there's a chance for it, but it's just not. That's unfortunate. That's our top, that's our producer messing with us because it's almost certainly got to be the Jinx. She's still incredibly powerful in this patch.
Yeah, I was about to say the Jinx, you have to take it in this round, right? You know, hey, listen, they could be thinking Potato might have watched some of Mad Magical stuff in the past over on the Academy. Said, support Syndra. Who knows? Maybe that's the debate moment. Highly doubt it, but UT Dallas, chance is for them, and they got some still power picks, especially in the jungle role.
Yeah, they got some very powerful picks. The Zeri also wasn't taken off. This champion has actually seen quite a few nerfs as well, so it's a little shocking to see it taken here. I know things like the Ashe are actually of pretty high priority after some of the buffs that have gone through a couple of times, but I wonder if it's inside of JRAF's wheelhouse. The Zeri seems more akin to the rest of the pool that he would bring about, and so now it's a matter of, what are you taking alongside the Zeri to make sure the laning phase isn't that bad? If you decide to blind something, I think you're going for more like engage type support, something like Leona or Nautilus, just to make sure you've got good protection and aggression into Jinx, but it makes more sense to go for Hecarim. These are some powerful champions that UT Dallas is getting their hands on, all in exchange for basically the Syndra, the direct counter pick to what is the Rise mid lane that Bay State saw immediately.
Yeah, this is very curious, and UT Dallas, like you said it immaculately, but there is a Sejuani lock in there. That's not a champion that we get to see too terribly often.
No, it is not. It's of interest to me as to whether or not Topopotamus can take it or Skittles can take it, because I feel at this point it's definitely more of a laning champion, or I see it more often in the laning phase than I do in the jungle, just because apparently power has swapped to some extent. But yeah, that's my expectation. They don't have melee champions to put with it either, which actually tells me, like, if they were to go for something like Braum here, I think it would make a lot of sense. The Braum is both a combination assistance for the Sejuani, and it's also a denial of the Ornn pick, which is something that Desori has gone to a number of times, or at least it's a direct counter to that, while being like it's supportive if you do have an aggressive jungler, but also it's defensive against the Zeri, helps you abuse the laning phase a little bit if you need to get aggressive alongside the Jinx. I think that fits Potato's wheelhouse. I think it fits their composition pretty well, and it opens them up for like a top lane counter pick in the later stages for Topopotamus here, if of course the Sejuani ends up jungle.
Yeah, I like the support pinch that we just saw massively done here in ban phase 2. So what do you supports got in your pocket? You're gonna have to see it. See what the pick is. They don't want to show that.
I'm voting for Braum really heavily for two reasons. Number one, I think it fits with the comp, and I think it's protective. Their con is taken. I was hoping to get Braum because also Tree Kangaroo plays Bard, and that's a notoriously good matchup for Bard if he's a talented Bard player. So I was hoping I'd get some Braum Bard action, but unfortunately that's not the case because it's their con that ends up coming in, which to me actually could signal this could be a Leona lane for Tree Kangaroo pretty easily. It's not going to get aggressive into a Rakan all the time, but it does make sense as like a engagement into what is a decent backline here, kind of denies any aggression that can come through from the Rakan, and its power to be able to put very immediately alongside the Zeri in this laning phase to prevent any kind of shenanigans. That should mean that the Zeri and the Jinx are roughly scaling at about the same rate, barring just kind of shenanigans in the bottom side going awry.
This team fighting is disgusting from UT Dallas. They just locked themselves in a Gnar. Bay State, what's your response? Because right now you look across the table and you do not want to fight the 5v5.
Okay. So that is going to be a Sejuani top lane with Zed in the jungle, which is of interest because Skittles taking a bit of the mantle into his own hands. It's originally for Bay State. I was looking at this composition and I'm like, okay, they've got good teamfight too. They could pick something akin to another team fighter to throw into the jungle position if they want, or try to just pure counterpick the Gnar in the top lane. But this is Skittles putting down a bit of the gauntlet is thrown down here from the side of Skittles because he wants to have individual impacts in a bunch of places, right? The Gnar is hard pressed to be able to get away from his Zed when the engagement comes through. It's the same with Rise in the earlier stages. Zeri, if you're able to get onto her, it feels like Skittles can have so much impact depending on just how good Skittles is at this Zed jungle pick that we haven't seen pop up as much. We've seen it on occasion, especially in the early portions of the season, but it's not something a bunch of junglers typically favor at this point. But he's got great setup pretty much across the board to try to get it going in the game. I feel like this truly is what Bay State was building towards, was this massive jungle individual pick for Skittles to pop off on.
Yeah, that's a lot of resources to be put into the bag of Skittles that is Skittles here. Like, this is a lot into their pocket to bring out this pocket pick from Skittles, and I'm a little scared, man. I see Zed in this situation, right? I look at like Leona, I look at Rise, I look at Hecarim, I'm like, all right, who you assassinated besides Zeri? That's the only person who I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, you can assassinate 1 out of 5 members.
It is The matter of, I think what you're getting at here is that UT Dallas, if we break into mid game and nothing has happened, this composition is a brick. Like it is hard to kill in a number of positions. It's got a lot of engage. Its scaling is really good for sort of the later stages of the game. Like UT Dallas is playing a very standard composition for like what League of Legends on paper usually is supposed to look like, and it's not that from Bay State. Bay State has that set up in 4 positions, but again, it's that Zed jungle that feels like it really needs to make an impact for things to get thrown asunder. Right? If you don't get impact from Skittles early on in the game, all of a sudden, Hemel ends up being this tank rise. You can't kill him. Like you said, the only person you're really going to be ulting or looking to kill is going to be JRAF, which is a big portion of the damage in this team fight. But again, when you've got a Leona on top of you, when you've got a Rise nearby, when you've got like Guardian Angel as options for this against this ad, all of a sudden it kind of loses its potency. So I feel like Skittles' impact in this game has to be not only one of he has to individually perform well, but he has to set up the rest of his team to be able to do a lot of carrying in what is effectively a 4v5 that he can try to turn into a 4v4.
I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on the members of UT Dallas to spot out Skittles and make sure that Skittles isn't able to find those side flanks, to be able to find easy ways to hit him with that Shadow Jutsu and really obliterate the HP bars. I'm also keeping my eyes on Potato, man. I have seen some fantastic Rakans who do some perma-roaming stuff that is absolutely disgusting. If Rakan can get together with Skittles, it's going to be another devastating combo, possibly, if they're able to enable each other through that.
I'm very excited to see how a game like this plays out, because my expectations for Bay State are we are going to see a very wild and aggressive early stage of the game, where Skittles is going to look to capitalize on a lot of setup from his lanes to get going in the beginning of the beginning stages. So I'm hoping we get that. It isn't the I cannot remember the rune off the top of my head. First Strike. It's not the First Strike Zed, which was really, really popular. Again, when this champion was circulating at the beginning of the season in like 12.1, 12.2, that was the choice of rune. And the reason why is because when you interact with something, not only do you get upfront true damage, which really helps out Zed quite a bit in like a trading pattern if you hit a lot of spells, but also it's just free gold into your pocket every time you happen to interact with the opposing jungler. Now, in this one, Hecarim isn't always the easiest to duel. You're an assassin, so it's going to be really simple for objective bounty once he's on like the chem tank to just sit there and not worry about what damage you're going to do if you're not ahead crazy. So here Skittles instead just goes for the easier option of the electrocute, just saying, okay, when the setup is there, I'm looking to jump in on top of somebody, just get the burst damage out immediately. Worst case scenario, I leave and they have to burn some, so they're completely chunked out for the laning phase. Sets up my lanes for great success.
I'm also very curious, flipping the conversation over to the top lane as well. This Gnar, we've seen Gnar time and time again. We've seen it very recently to great success, especially from some collegiate squads. And it's into a matchup that I feel like it could favor, right? A ranged matchup into a full tank like Sejuani. This is a flashless Sejuani too. Seems like it could be fairly good for this Gnar to take advantage of.
I'm not actually 100% positive on that one. This is a case where it feels like if the Gnar is set ahead pretty early, you go like Sunderer or something along those lines, you definitely could try to use your range to bully out the Sejuani more than other people, but Sejuani's damage in the beginning of the game is actually excruciatingly high. Like for single target damage as a level 3 champion, despite being like a CC monster and a frontline tank in the late game, her individual single target damage is really high. So against a mini Gnar, it makes a lot of sense actually to throw this champion in, because all of a sudden you have an equalizing team fighter. If the Gnar doesn't get ahead, you're not really winning the laning phase. And then Topopotamus has legitimate threat to kill the Sori if he's not very careful with how he's positioning in a lane like this. You can see right there, Topopotamus getting a solid chunk. Didn't even get a full glacial stack off that one to be able to get that empowered auto attack. When that starts to come through, you can see the impact that Sejuani has in the one-on-one.
The tanks and having insane base damage. Name a better duo. You get to see a full display of that. As you can see, a little bit of trading going in the top side of the map. Zed hovering this top lane as well, finishing up the Krugs.
This is the moment.
This could be the moment. Zed is looking for it. He just went mini. Yeah. This is the Zori. Ignite has been used and the flash as well. The Zori goes down. First blood to the Sejuani top lane.
And that is Dezori getting punished for lack of wave management. Like you said, abusing some of the range in the early stage to get a push onto the Sejuani. But Topopotamus is a very experienced member, been on collegiate squads and kind of amateur squads a consistent amount over the last couple of years. And so understood one of the key principles of this is that if the wave doesn't full crash underneath the tower, Dezori is just going to be pushed up and all of a sudden Skittles gets to go to topside and get a completely free gank off. Especially like you said, when the mini Gnar came out, you knew that something was going on right there.
Check this out. Beautiful scatter the weak plus Potato getting in a nice roam. The phase rush on the rise, though, able to reposition himself. Action is continuing to go on, and that is Syndra getting punished, but the rise gets dropped in the backline swiftly. The ninja has been punished, and Skittles will go down. I saw objective bounty flamed already on the screen. I don't know if that was true.
Well, it's objective bounty. It's the guy's name, man. Like, you're getting it all the time. It's pretty crazy.
You're right.
Yeah, we get a bit of a we get a bit of a skirmish at the beginning of the game, just between these two teams. Ends up favoring UT Dallas because they've got the champions, especially the Hecarim, who's so powerful in these early game fights. The setup was almost there. I think it was really the roam that came out from JRAF and Tree Kangaroo. The two of those really making the impact in the mid lane. Tree Kangaroo specifically setting that up with the E flash to get a glacial on two members kind of allowed them to really just walk in and end up taking that fight in a very convincing fashion. Helps neutralize a bit of the mid lane lead because you have one kill for a couple of CS, so Ralik isn't going to be too far ahead. The biggest thing is the Hecarim also got a kill in exchange for Skittles getting a kill. While that does play to the game plan of Bay State Blue trying to get their Zed ahead, I do think the Hecarim getting gold is, again, something you desperately do not want to have happen because there's no interaction between Skittles and Objective Bounty that you're usually going to want to take.
Skittles has started dragging at the moment. Hecarim has not done first back yet, so he is going to respect it. That's first straight going over to Bay State Blue. I'm curious on the build path that Hecarim will take too, because like you said, he can just kind of do his own thing inside of this game. He's got the Conqueror and whatnot, and I agree with you wholeheartedly too. It's like if you trade even between Zed and Hecarim, it favors the Hecarim 9 times out of 10 because he can itemize the deal with Zed so much better than Zed can itemize the deal with anybody else.
Now, you do have a bait, I think, in the later stages of this one for the Hecarim, which is Chem Tank is a good item for tanking at the very beginning, but Zed will eventually get penetration. But the bait item here is actually a tier. So I know a lot of Hecarims have been going for Fimbulwinter, a lot of Hecarims have been going for, like, what is not immune, whatever the situation is, if you want some more damage, right? If you fall victim to that trap, all of a sudden you don't have the resistances to fight against the Zed. And especially now that I'm seeing Objective Bounty, looks like he's going for Boar Drinker instead of that typical Chem Tank. That means, in my mind, that he's not going to have the resistances to fight against Skills, especially if he doesn't go for tier 2 boots, and especially if he doesn't go for the plated steel caps. All of a sudden, Skittles has an avenue to fight up against the Hecarim, which is not what you want to give. You really want the armor pumping in the very beginning of the game. I know it's a little terrifying into Ralik, but definitely gotta make it happen.
Oh, nice flash. Objective Bounty quickly punished. What you doing under the tower there? As he is going to find that horse put out of his misery.
Kind of just waltzes in underneath the tower, which is a little confusing. I was just talking about how he had no resistances, and he's fighting up against the Syndra again. Nice denial.
Trying to look for it. Nice cleanse coming out from Jurassic as well. Looking to tango with this Zeri, but Zeri got that passive going. Will be a simple disengage between the bot lanes.
And this is my favorite part of this matchup, right? It's a matter of, I hear people talk about how good Leona is into Rakan from time to time, but that's if Rakan is being just, like, obscenely aggressive for absolutely no reason. If you play a defensive lane and you just play for peeling for your ADC most of the time, Leona presses E onto the other ADC, you press W onto theirs, and all of a sudden you're at a standstill. The damage is going to go to Leona, but as long as your ADC isn't completely out of it, you should be okay. JRAF always going to take the ultimate.
Ah, the Shuriken pop, not going to be able to find it. Xenoblade forward, but the trap stopped the Hecarim in his tracks. Tree Kangaroo will survive, but what a dangerous encounter in the bot lane.
Skittles not able to get a full combo off there onto JRAF in an attempt to get the kill traded over, but the hovering from Objective Bounty just means that there's no fight to be had. True Kangaroo did get kind of low right there. But thankfully there's no objectives on the map to punish with unless the push comes out right now from Bay State in an attempt to goad them into staying in lane or forcing them back to lane so they don't lose like 2 ways of farm. They got baited. Okay, this is the play where Bay State, they push bottom side, immediately shift up to Rift Herald. That's got to be the play right here for Jurassic and Admiral Potato. At least Potato, who's level 6 right now, actually a level ahead of Jurassic. That is a perfect position to be in because you've got a level 6 support, one of the most impactful levels that most supports are going to be carrying, especially this Rakan. You walk up, you push out top lane, you have mid lane pushed out with the Syndra. This is an immediate Rift Herald take, and if they try to challenge you, you're going to lose.
Yeah, you can see the Jurassic is already heading over here to the top lane. Sejuani is getting the recall into the bot lane. It's just going to be the standard setup, but it is Bay State Blue who are being the proactive team and shifting these lanes around. And like you said, they're going to get this Rift Tear open. Bay State Blue looking to be in a good position because of it, as Leona is looking to go on a roaming adventure into the mid lane.
So now it's a testament of the Sejuani is full swapping with the bottom lane here in an attempt to get a push out against the Sori. But the Leona's on the top side of the map, so you're actually even in numbers. The level 6 isn't been achieved from Tree Kangaroo, and I think you need to force that. So you need to siphon some mid-wave experience, try to get the level 6 for Leona, because Admiral Potato is just so much stronger than what you bring right now. The Rift Herald started up, again, contesting this, difficult to do. Objective Bounties has the ultimate, but doesn't have the Ghost, so I think it's so difficult to try to siege up on this top side that Bay State, or my apologies, UT Dallas, just aren't able to do it. Really, really well shifted from Bay State. I kind of didn't want a full swap. I almost wanted them to keep their ADCs on the bottom side. But they are going immediate. No swap means that it's just an R into 3 full members, and nobody is here on the cover, which means it's just free plates all day for Jurassic.
And Jurassic just wants to go ahead and claim these, and will do just that, swiftly using that Herald without any time to waste. Jurassic is getting the reset off, and guessing Jurassic gonna go back to this bot lane, as it seems here. As you can see, Potato in the mid lane, unleash power. Skittles finds the kill, and now it's the death mark, but the charm is still there. The onslaught of shadows gets a nice fear, and objective bounty will slay Skittles. Giraffe is with Topo, and they are trying to see exactly what can happen. Glacial Prison has been thrown out. Zeri takes a good amount of damage, but the Pog slide to get out of harm's way will be enough to resuscitate him from danger. Ooh, the super mega death rocket hitting its mark, but didn't do the damage quite desired. It is just going to be the dragon started for Bay State Blue.
Ooh, actually, quite a few members taking damage there. I think JRAF has to be way too careful to actually full engage this. If you are the side of UT Dallas, you have to be a lot more careful with this situation. Ultimates are down across the board for Bay State, which is why I feel like they could be doing this. But in order for this to fully come online, you need the Gnar to have Mega Gnar. He's trying to throw the boomerang at other members of the other team. He should stack it on the dragon, but he has to be careful, because if they wait out the timer, it's going to be really easy. Topo's on a wraparound, but he doesn't have the ultimate, which is the big thing.
Yeah, doesn't have the ultimate, and you can see the Sejuani is looking for a moment. Here we go. Realm Warp comes in, but it was just a bait. Buy some room. Here comes Mega Gnar. Wow. Throw him up against the wall. Beautiful cleanse from Jurassic in the backline. Rockets firing away, and is Bay State finding 2 quick kills, but the Hecarim finds Zed. Gnar gets dropped as well, and Bay State Blue come out ahead in the dragon fight.
It is a matter of UT Dallas, I think, full commit on this situation in an attempt to grab up the dragon, which is not what they need to be playing for when they're down gold at this moment to Bay State. We talked about how the longer that this game goes, the better it is, and yes, you've denied the dragon timer, but any amount of advantage that the Zed continues to pour on to the rest of the lanes, or that he continues to collect, is money in the pocket of Bay State that's going to be more difficult to deal with as you get into second and third dragon territory, second Rift Herald territory, first Baron territory, that UT Dallas is going to have to come up with a response for. I really appreciate it. I think if they go for a fight right there, they might actually look good without the ultimates from Bay State, but they don't go for it. Instead, they kind of split decisions in a couple of directions, and because of that, it cost them really heavily in that fight, which puts Rallick on a great position. It's now Skittles with 3 kills in a game like this. This is not where you want to end up.
I mean, the Gnar had a great ult, too, right? Got the Syndra and the Jinx. Your 2 priority targets. Got them. Sweet. But the rest of the fight, so disjointed. So many people had different priorities in their mind on who they need to focus out. This is a bit of an interesting scenario to be inside of. Bay State currently has a nice gold lead for themselves. 13 minutes into the game, they've got a nice 2K lead established. And Skittles is looking to make their presence known yet again. Scatter the weak plus the death mark. It's as simple as that, but this Rise will be able to survive with a little bit of the pots ticking away, and he
Rocket.
He's nope, doesn't hit.
Not quite. Yeah, pretty close. Actually, did it hit? It might have actually hit. I didn't see it keep going on the screen.
Actually,
I think it hit and didn't kill him, which is unfortunate, but
I'm not sure.
I think it did because I didn't see it pass, but it doesn't matter because it ends up not doing anything anyway. But what it does do is, again, exactly what we were talking about with Skittles, which is all you have to do is click your buttons as the Z inside of the lanes, and it pushes them out, right? Rise now loses a lot of mid lane pressure that you have, and with Admiral Potato kind of roaming up into the mid side, you can see the pressure that Ralik's able to put onto the mid tower, plates that are going to be captured, and they decided to shift out of the defense. I feel like Objective Bounty should have stuck around in the mid lane, just in an attempt alongside Tree Kangaroo to prevent more gold going into the pockets of the Syndra, but they don't do that. Instead, they opt to go back towards bottom side, make sure to try to keep Jurassic honest and not let him go for a tower or anything like that. But again, it feels like UT Dallas is kind of getting pulled around the way that Bay State are looking to set up this game right now.
Objective Bounty, by the way, went for a Stride Breaker instead of a Gore Drinker. So
I saw that.
For the path, yeah.
It's a little strange. I don't think it's like completely ridiculous because you do have a good amount of damage. You have a lot of chasing power.
Yeah.
But in the confines of a game like this, I don't think you need what the Stride Breaker brings, right? I could see the reason for a Gore Drinker, which is if you end up in the middle of multiple members, you're going to use it, but it probably doesn't get used that often. Stride Breaker is the same thing, but it's damage and slow. So here the intention, I think, is to ult to backline, then pop Stride Breaker, and then nobody can get away. But I just don't see that ending up being a positive situation for the Hacker on this. That is
beautiful response here. The quickening coming in. They catch out Zeri. Lots of damage laid out. The Solar Flare doesn't blind out the Zeri, but Tree Kangaroo is going to find himself hopping back to the fountain. Jurassic gets one more rocket, a beautiful flash, and a double kill for Jurassic in the bot lane while we go back into the mid lane. Skittles is coming to assist his teammate, unleash power. The phase rush is giving him so much movement speed. He's trying to get away, but cannot find the escape path. Beautiful cutoff by the Sejuani.
And this is the breaking point that kind of turns this game from being relatively close and for UT Dallas to be able to expand it to now Bay State have complete control of what happens and the momentum of the game, right? This is off the back of a fantastic TP from Topopotamus, who not only shuts down the dive against his bottom lane, but sets up the post-play into the bottom side where they end up with 2 kills. Skittles backing up in a little weird area. He's got ultimate to work with.
Does put out a good amount of damage. Nice flash. Is going to be able to escape, but this sets up the Syndra as bait. Will be the sacrificial lamb for his mispositioning.
Yeah, a couple of times now there's been Ralik kind of pushed up in the mid lane. The cover has been there from Skittles, but again, this Heck group is not easy to burst all the way through if you are the Zed. Right there, Skittles kind of got caught off guard through like a lapse of vision and just got run up on without knowing anything, and so has to burn cooldowns defensively just to make sure he can get out rather than using them in an offensive manner, which is kind of what he wants to do on the Zed. So good on UT Dallas finding a break. It seems like when Tree Kangaroo's out and about, they can find a lot more in a game like this, but they're still, I think, really struggling inside of this game to find any footing to make defense against what Bay State truly is looking for. They're up about 4K now on the side of Bay State. They've got a huge Jinx on the bottom side. They've got a Syndra who's on first item and some penetration and multiple items as well. Makes it really difficult for a lot of these members to survive. The Gnar is basically paper at this point. The Heck Room is paper for Ralik at this point. The Trinity Force makes JRAF paper to a lot of the members that have the burst here.
The Gnar is here. This is a big timer for UT Dallas. They want to make something happen. You can see it on the Gnar's face, the way they're moving around the map. Tree Kangaroo already a half HP. Same thing can be said for this Rise, as the fight could possibly continue. Glacial Prison, it connects! Huge! Oh, the Super Mega Death Rocket finds 2 members, and now it's Jurassic free farming away on these champions. The Zap not going to connect, but the Sword taken off the map, and Objective Bounty looking to be claimed, but will be able to zip right out of there. Ocean Dragon going over to Bay State Blue.
Incredibly easy team fight to execute here from the side of Bay State, all off the back of Topopotamus, who's now had probably 3 or 4 really incredible plays on the Sejuani during the course of this game. Not only has it been an immaculate counter to the Gnar pick that came out, that Dezori actually picked into this Sejuani, maybe not anticipating it to go into the top side, but it's also had massive impacts now in bottom lane and in that fight with just the ultimate alone. We talked about how Bay State Blue have a really, really comprehensive 4-man squad without the Zed, and that the Zed's intention is to try to get the rest of his lanes ahead for this situation where they're going to be looking for more of a 4-on-5 fight where the Zed is going to look to pick somebody, but they don't even need the Zed at this point, right? Like, you've got the Cinder on the right position, you've got Jinx under the right items, and this is a massive Sejuani. There's nobody that can tank the way that Sejuani can in these fights. Dezori can't do it, Objective Bounty can't do it, Tree Kangaroo certainly can't do it, and that means that they are losing the front-to-front battle, and they are giving space to Jurassic and Feralic to step up in fights to just crush people. And we haven't even seen Skittles really get an amazing flank off. If Skittles removes one person from a team fight, that team fight's completely lost for UT Dallas. They don't have a way to get back in.
The scary thing is, we talk about Skittle, and we actually really focused on the Zed pick as it was the last pick, and it was the big, like, ooh, you thought you knew me, but it's also like the combination of Syndra plus Sejuani, and it sets up for such a nice scatter of the week. Check this out, Zeri in such a rough scenario, left by themselves. Jurassic might be in a rough place as well. The Onslaught of Shadows has been used, nice fear, but like you were talking about in the laning phase, it stays true. This Rakan is just peeling away anything that UT Dallas is able to find.
We are really okay right now if you're base states when you're talking about what this lane setup looks like. Like, you want Cinder into Gnar because Gnar has no magic resist at all. Rallic can full combo mini Gnar. You'd see that, but he has to keep jumping away just to not get hit by single spell rotations. And on the other side, what is a Leona Zeri with one item going to accomplish into top Hippopotamus is like 2 full item Sejuani. Yes, you don't have boots completed, but look at the health bar. The health bar is like 2,600 health. JRAF is never going to get through that kind of a health bar. The only champion you have a chance of that on is probably Vayne, this low in terms of itemization, but that's not going to happen. And now you can see 2 of them were committed to the bottom side. They went for second Rift Herald on top side. That's going to get them tip a top inner into multiple members. That's a big amount of gold. They could even shift into mid lane if they wanted to, try to push that out in terms of setup for whether it's the Baron buff that they can start looking for or something else. The Zori can't even get the eye, so unfortunately it's going to crash into the top tower, it looked like, as well.
That's a feels bad. Just wanted to hit that eye. And yeah, UT Dallas in a rough spot. Realm Warp being used to just, go over to the Baron Pit a little bit there. Says, all right, nobody there. Cool, we don't need to take it. It's fine. See, Bay State Blue. Get a nice reset. Have a nice timer for them. Objective bounties are up in favor of UT Dallas. But this is an 8K lead. What a spike there. But it's an 8K lead in favor of Bay State Blue.
It's a pretty miraculous beginning to the game. Bay State wasn't super active. Like you said, I think it would have been... It's really easy to miss the impact that Skittles had on a game like this, and I don't think he was perfect in this game by any standard. But to quote a famous TV show, if you've done something right, it might seem like you've done nothing at all, right? And that's kind of what Skittles' onus was in a game like this. That is until he erases JRAF.
Yeah, well, this is that flank you were talking about earlier, but check this out. Zeri was able to survive for so long. Syndra comes in, finishes the job. Jurassic is kiting out the fight beautifully as well. A double kill. The Sejuani wasn't even here yet. That's a triple kill for Jurassic, as it will be the ace for Bay State Blue.
It's so easy, man. Like, you erase the Zeri, who isn't even that powerful of a member inside of UT Dallas, and they have absolutely nothing behind it in order to fight with, right? Even if JRAF gets out of that situation and you trade it for Skittles, there's no way that the Zeri, after the ultimate, all the cooldowns burnt, and health bar being that low, was going to have any impact in a fight like that. And that means that Bay State, again, they take the 4-on-4. It's a little delayed. They had kind of members coming in one at a time, but they're so powerful, it does not matter. Nobody can stand against the damage that's been arrived at by Bay State. And that opens up not only mid-tower, Baron buff's going to be there, Dragon's going to go into their back pocket, so if they really wanted to play out slow, they could wait for the 4th Dragon, end up getting the Ocean Soul on top of that. And if top Hippopotamus and Sejuani isn't unkillable at this point, just imagine what a triple Ocean Soul is going to actually do here for top Hippopotamus as well in terms of being able to kill him. It's just not going to happen anytime soon. It's a chalked game in my mind from UT Dallas. I don't see a way for them to get back in. They're not scaling fast enough to be able to kind of match what pacing is being held by Bay State right now.
And when you talk about pacing, I want to highlight Potato here, honestly. This Rakan is great. 0-0-16. There's 19 kills on the table from Bay State, and 16 of them have been provided by Rakan. So Potato's been doing an admirable job for sure. I don't know if this is somebody you guys can fight down here bot lane UT. They want to try it. They want to try it.
Do they?
They're trying to. They're trying to keep him underneath the tower. Someone's taking so many tower shots here. It actually ends up working in their favor. A shutdown for the Hecarim.
Yeah, they were able to force Talpopotamus deeper into the tower rather than actually letting him get out. They were able to block the Q. They were able to get in the way of everything else, and there's no flash on the Sejuani, so there's no way to get out of that situation. I think the only way you could have is to wrap around the tower on the left side, try to run out the back side of the tower, but I think there were more members there from UT Dallas as well. The pick was good. This is actually Rayleigh.
Yep, they got him.
He has
Prison,
damage, though.
easy as can be here.
Oh,
this is another kill here as Emelt's going to be able to stay alive. A Glacial Augment proc later, but check out the devastation that happens mid lane. 2 kills in quick succession, and it's the inhibitor tower that this excited Jinx is looking at.
This is the eventual layup that has happened from Bay State Blue from the ramifications of an early game, right? Jurassic is so ridiculously powerful. He can sit here and do pretty much anything that he wants inside of this lane. And I like that you mentioned Admiral Potato, who had not only a really sufficient early game to find plays around the map to make a massive impact and to get this big advantage for Bay State, but also he's kind of the crux to what allows them to play in 3 lanes. Because if you do something like this, where UT Dallas, they shift their weight and kind of throw it into bottom lane, then immediately throw it top side, then what you saw is the ramification in mid lane, where Admiral Potato goes diving, Jurassic just kills 2 people, you take a full mid inhibitor, and that's traded for what, 2 kills in the side lane? 100% Bay State takes that all day, because that's so much more ability to push in minions, that's more gold in your pocket than what UT Dallas is arriving at, and they still have a very far way to go before they're really able to take a full-on team fight.
Yeah, it's a 12k lead now for Bay State Blue. And they're completely taking control over the bottom half of this jungle objective bounty, seeing if there's any stragglers. Decides against checking into that bush. Sees Jurassic there and feels something in his horse bones, saying, I probably shouldn't go this way.
Completely reasonable, as there were hoverings from both Skittles and also from Admiral Potato, so you're never getting out of that situation if you're objective bounty. And the only way you stall a game like this is to steal objectives. I think that's the best way to try to do it. Oh, actually, we get a little bit more. Again, this is the weight throwing around, but there's so many members right here from the side of Bay State that you can't even really full engage this, right? If there's 2 members there, I think they full send on it because Talpopotamus is on the other side, so you're okay with that, but not into 4 members. You're not winning that fight even if you got your full strength team.
Oh my god, Kangaroo getting mulched here, but they find a catch onto the Zed. Is it going to be worth? As Zed is barely able to stay alive for so long. He finally drops, but Bay State Blue are fully routing him yet again. Jurassic goes ignored, and we'll remind everybody exactly who he is on this Jinx pick. This is going to be the Nexus, and this is Bay State Blue picking up a very commanding Game 1 victory.
It is a game that UT Dallas, they have to win in the very early stages by not making mistakes and by not giving gold over to the side of Bay State Blue. But all it took was a little shift. 2,000 gold here, a few kills there, and that was it for Bay State Blue. There's no competition when it comes to that, from where they landed with a couple of those working plays at the beginning of the game and making sure that they could press down on the gas and really accelerate for the later stages. You could see the big difference that was made by just a handful of sort of instant impacts that happened at the beginning of the game that set so much into a positive light. Bottom lane was huge as well. I think bottom lane eventually Jurassic just became an absolute monster. But really it was the lead up to Jurassic having multiple kills, having the first tower under his belt that really snowballed him to a point where, again, the Jinx was effectively 1v5. The rest of the people on the team were there, cheering him on along the way. But had it not been for their contribution prior to that, it wouldn't have allowed for this Jinx to get to that point. It was a really well thought out kind of game plan from start to finish from Bay State to be able to execute on a comp like that.
Deathless as well, right?
Yeah.
This bot lane from Bay State Blue, no deaths. You had the highest kill participation on your team with the Rakan, which is a very big statement to have. I can't help but get excited for this for Bay State Blue, but this is a series. This is a best of 3. So UT Dallas have another opportunity to bring themselves into the light, beat themselves into a dub here, and bring this series to a full 3 games. So we're going to take ourselves a short break. When we come back, we're going to find exactly what UT Dallas has in store for us. So make sure you guys don't go anywhere. back, ladies and gentlemen. We are going into game number 2 here. UTD taking on Bay State Blue. And Rebel, we got to see a very, very commanding game 1 dub for Bay State Blue.
We did. I could appreciate not only the creativity of the Zeg pick, but also, again, the execution around it, both in the beginning, the mid-game, the late game. I think everything came together for them. They found the right strike that was necessary. For me, UT Dallas, they drafted a composition that needed to kind of not lose, and they weren't able to make that happen. So I like having the option, obviously, for UTD to be able to attack in a number of different positions, or to be able to do things that that can be proactive at the beginning of the game. I think the Zeri pick was a little bit problematic, just because it didn't go very well in the beginning of the game. You couldn't really aggress against that bottom side either. Heckram tried a couple of times, but you weren't able to make it happen. And so because of that, none of the carry kind of potential really ever showed through for UTD. I'm hoping they can salvage that in this game.
Yeah, it was a very curious case where we were over here like, yo, they picked this Zed last pick. They got to keep their eyes on this Zed. And it was the bot lane of Bay State Blue that really showed up in our eyes. And not only that, the Syndra, which you and me were both kind of like, as a pick into the rise and the very first rotation of picks. Caught us by surprise as well, but both of those lanes popped off tremendously in their own rights, and it was really this Syndra Rakan setting things up for Jurassic Zed to be able to pop off, and the Sejuani as well. Those glacial prisons, especially the one that we saw around the Dragon Pit, Rebel, they were absolutely beautiful.
Like I said, I think the cool part about that game for Bay State was just that their setup was there at the beginning so that they could kind of knock things down with the damage that came through in the later stages. It's very rare that you could see kind of that ease of being able to do so, right? It was a very, very gradual lift off for the Jinx and the Syndra to be able to start carrying as the game went on, especially for Jurassic, where it was like exponentials. The first couple of minutes was slow, they got a little better, and then all of a sudden he's 1v9ing, and it's not really that much of a worry in the first place. So something that can break down the game plan of Bay State also is an option for UTD. I know they're not necessarily rocking a coach. I know they're rocking 2 substitute players as well, but try to be, come up with some kind of response if UT Dallas decides to show their hand pretty quickly in that one as well. Yeah. Just because you kind of knew the 4-man squad was going to be an absolute menace. The best case scenario is that they draft a 5th mid and then you play for team fight, and maybe that was the expectation for UTD, but now they're more ready for this kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're staying on blue side. They have said, all right, the side selection was not an issue. We're going to go ahead, run it back from the different sides, come at it with a different strategy, and see if a different formula might be able to find the equation for success here. Looking to take Bay State Blue down here in game number 2 in this best of 3. Bands, yet again, going fairly slowly here. Both these teams really taking their time to think about exactly what they don't want to play against.
The biggest thing for me also in a game like this is that UT Dallas had, Hemmel wasn't off to a particularly good foot. JRAF and Tree Kangaroo didn't have a lot of impact in the earlier stages. Objective Bounty felt like they were able to accomplish some, but Desori to me was actually the kind of lowest of the crop, which is not to say the play was necessarily horrid out of the Desori specifically, but the Gnar pick into the Sejuani was not it, Chief, nor was the later stage kind of impact that the Gnar held anything close to what Topopotamus was able to actually bring about. So in a game like this, I really want to see them actually lean a bit more towards top lane. If Desori needs something, not the Gnar, just because you don't want to get it aggressed against by something like that again from Topopotamus. But again, Comfort for me is something a lot bigger for Desori in this one. Something that he can compete with Topopotamus with quicker in the laning phase, because again, it was really hard to do so as the Gnar.
It's also a scary situation when you play something like a Gnar into a Sejuani, right? You get the lane push, you get that early advantage from your rain advantage. But as soon as you went mini one time, Skittle's just like, oh, hello there. Like, he immediately is up top. He's ready to pop this Gnar. So I'm with you. I want to see some resources put into the top side of the map. I think Desori didn't really get a moment to shine inside that game. It felt like the Mega Gnar was always unable to be utilized, but got some really good ultimates off inside of the fight. So had to see. A Yumi ban is the adaptation, by the way. We have 3 support bans here from UTD.
Interesting, the Jinx ban comes through too. It must be that the read is that UT Dallas won't take Azaria a second time, especially not at B1, just because they understand how bad that was for the laning phase against Jurassic and Potato. And so now there's no Caitlyn, there's no Jinx. It's a lot harder to kind of manifest something that's going to be winning for your bottom side. So I like the idea of the Hecarim. I think this buys them time in a draft like this where they have to come up with some kind of a solution to the bottom lane to get yourself a little more information from Bay State's composition, where expectations should be, I mean, it could be jungle pick really easily, whatever Skittles decides to go for, unless you're really holding that counter pick specifically, in which case I think Ryze is perfectly fine for Ralik here. I think you could go for an ADC if you really had like Zeri was like on top of priority, that kind of thing, but it just depends what their preferences are for a couple of their champions.
Yeah, they get Ryze immediately as the response, and now Bay State, they can grab a jungle matchup if they decide they know what they want to play into Hecarim. They have quite a few options available to themselves. They might actually want to look into a support matchup. They could grab the Rakan again as well if they so choose, but currently it's a Sejuani hover. They picked it early last time. They're going to do it again.
I like this quite a bit because it's the potential flex between both top and jungle position. I wonder if Topopotamus also has the Ryze in the pool, just as a real fear that there's triple flex between, or like 3-position flex between the Sejuani and the Ryze to make this even more difficult for UTD. It's Bay State protecting the information the best that they can. I have to assume it's going to be Ryze in the mid lane, but the Sejuani is up in the air at least a little bit here, so I think it makes a lot of sense. Hemel is going to give away the Orianna in the mid lane. I think you were seeding early game, pushing from Ralik in exchange for what is again superior team fighting. UT Dallas seem to be going right back down the scaling path. So I really want to see them get a very, very high priority top laner. This makes sense. It's a blind top laner for Dasori, where you're going to be felt comfortable. This is one of those picks that he goes to pretty consistently to be just kind of a lane stall the way that other tanks are. This is preferential, and they're going to wait to hold their bottom lane just because they want to be able to see what Bay State is going to be going for at the time, so they can try to set up a team fight around it. Do they need like a really powerful one? Do you want a misfortune in this? Do you want more dive potential? Do you throw Kai'Sa into this composition? There's plenty of options. Do you go Vayne? That's a really big one as well for JRAF. I think if you're on the side of Bay State, you're double banning ADC almost certainly just to get him off the champions that you don't want him to see. And now with the Kai'Sa lock-in as well, not only do you not have to ban Kai'Sa, but you've got your own AC to protect. And Jurassic, if I recall back at Academy, this was one of the champions that he really made a name on, was specifically this Kai'Sa.
Jurassic is a phenomenal AD carry that we've seen in the past, and like you said, the Kai'Sa pick is one of Jurassic we've seen them on in the past, and it has a storied history alongside with them. The scary thing for me is I haven't seen Kai'Sa really get that pop-off moment in a lot of the games that I've watched here inside the amateur space. So keeping posted on what this Kai'Sa does, and I'm also curious on what build path Jurassic's going to go, because it's so many different paths that so many different people actually end up going for. And this leaves up another interesting scenario. You were talking about AD carries getting pinched. We're in a world where 5 supports are about to be banned away.
Just really making sure that there's nothing there to protect the Kai'Sa, which again drives us into more interesting support versus support territory. Soraka's not off the table yet. I think that's a big one. Bard's not off the table yet for Tree Kangaroo. I think that's big. That is an interesting ban. I know Samira's popped up at least a little bit, specifically for like compositions like this where there's going to be a lot of dive. You really want to put attention to the bottom lane. Samira is something that definitely can kind of make aggression against Kai'Sa. You can deny a number of her skill shots with your W. It makes a lot of sense in just making sure the full team fight dive doesn't come through from UT Dallas. So now we get our final support ban. What are they going to put onto Potato? Only because they still don't know which lane the Sejuani is going to. They don't know what they're doing. So I think another support ban makes sense here from UT Dallas, unless there's something they really don't want to see Skittles on in a game like this.
I feel like it has to be a Rakan ban, right? Like, it has to be. Potato was so good on the champion. So, yeah, it's a way. There's a couple different champions there, yet again, going to have the blind pick between the top and jungle here. And, I mean, Braum is still up. You were talking about it. I'm actually down for something like a Braum or something along the likes.
I don't think it makes a ridiculous amount of it doesn't contrast what they're going for here. And again, with Sejuani, that combination is just too good. That is indicative now that we are going to be seeing Sejuani top lane into almost certainly the Gragas, which means that Volibear is going to be going into the jungle. So it's a powerful jungler, as they have hidden now their support pick this long into the draft, which is insane to think about just how much they're putting into Potato right now. And now you have to find something to put with Zeri that's going to be able to beat the Kai'Sa pick alongside whatever support you are blinding. You're putting the faith in...
Ooh.
Ah, there it is. Okay. We've been waiting for Ashe to pop up. I haven't done too much on 12-5 yet, but this champion is apparently absolutely crazy. I've heard it's so good that you can put it in support role, which is kind of nuts to think about as well. But just how powerful this champion is ridiculous. You could do so much. I don't know if our producer's messing with us. Oh, it's actual lock. That's what we like to see. It's the Bard pick. This is way down in the pool. That's what we've been waiting for.
I really like this, actually, too, because Tree Kangaroo, like you were talking about, expert Bard player, seeing what they'll be able to do, they take comfort, they take something that they say, all right, we're challenging you on the matchup. Bay State does still have the Thresh open. I just went back and looked at the bans. I was like, oh, wow, Thresh is still open. There's Leona still. So they have this dive composition that's very scary. Tree Kangaroo has his work cut out for him. With him being able to put some fools in some stasis, he can really dismay Bay State's composition if he lands a correct Tempered Fate.
You can do a lot more with this bottom lane, I think, not only from a comfort standpoint, but from a global impact standpoint. Tree Kangaroo should be able to match what Potato's able to do in terms of roaming if you leave both bottom lanes kind of alone on their own, the way we'd seen in the previous game. Hawkshot is huge for being able to track Skittles around to see where the impact is going to come from the Volibear. Those two, and again, the Bard ultimate also amazing for slowing down the pacing of the game. If if Bay State decide to go for Rift Herald, you can shut out a Rift Herald with the Bard ultimate. That's a ton of gold that you're just completely clamping off from the side of Bay State that they're never going to be able to get back because the value of that Rift Herald just isn't going to be there. So if you want to slow things down, I think this is not only more comfortable, but I think this is a better setup to have better impact across the map for the side of UT Dallas. This, to me, is more stock standard in what we would expect them to be going for. Even with their full lineup in, I wouldn't be shocked to see something like this.
Yeah, this is a very much so comfortable, scaling as well. Like you were talking about at the very beginning of the draft, they got themselves a nice top laner that has a little bit more controlled urgency inside the lane. And then you got the Hecarim, who is going to look to pop off. Did have a good early start, right? Objective Bounty did find some good early moments. It was when we did get into the mid game where Bay State took complete control over things that we were just like, oh, the Hecarim can't do anything. So yet again, keeping my eyes on it. I'm personally, after last game's performance, recency bias makes me keep my eyes peeled on this Potato in the bot lane, man. Like, honestly, just seeing how they roamed around the map on the Recon and facilitated things and got things prepared for Bay State Blue was a work of art. And Potato, I think, is a real threat that they're going to have to monitor.
Yeah, if last game is any kind of indication, which I think is easier to do on Rakan than it is to do on Leona, you can expect map impact. And the big thing about this for Bay State Blue is with a Ryze versus an Orianna matchup, you should have mid push, which means that with a Volibear Ryze, you're going to be winning the mid 2v2 most of the time, or you're definitely going to have faster move. So you throw that into also effectively like tank setup, lots of CC in the top lane. You also have Potato not only roaming, but also for setup on bottom side. And it feels like Skittles and Rallick actually have quite a bit more agency at the beginning of this game than even what they had in the previous game, where the Zed was much more about ganking for specific lanes. The map control is there for Bay State this time, and the very early stages. They're the ones that kind of control all of the pacing now.
Well, here we are, game number 2 here between UT Dallas and Bay State Blue. These two squads looking to fight amongst one another. As we'll get here onto the fields of justice. Looks like we had a little bit of a tech difficulty there. We will get back, as it was just, the good old spaghetti code that can come into play from time to time.
Here we go. Nothing too crazy. I'm really, really intrigued by some of the decisions that can be held on both teams. Again, I think mid-jungle is really powerful for Bay State, but if you get your bottom lane even a little bit ahead on the side of objective bounties, I think all of a sudden, like, Tree Kangaroo opens up as a better option. I think Ashe is comfortable just, like, leaving the lane. You're going to do some damage anyway. You're going to have value with that hawk shot like we talked about. And there's a lot more to what this game kind of plays out to be if bottom lane is more involved for UT Dallas. And so that's what I'm expecting here. Yep. Not to mention, Desori is in much more of a neutralizing lane. I think it's harder for the Gragas to lose to the Sejuani in the one-on-one matchup than what it was with the Gnar. The Gnar was super easy to set up for ganks or just outright kill on your own if you were top bottomist. So in this game, I feel like their side lanes are much stronger than what they had in the previous game. And it really is a lot slower. They're playing for the team fight, but they've got more grasp, I think, than what they had in the previous game as well.
It feels weird right now, Rebel. The reason why it feels so weird to me is I look across all this table and I see, of course, there's like a unique champion like Sejuani. It doesn't come up as very often. I can't remember the last time I got a Ashe versus Kai'Sa game, man. It feels like it's just been Jeets Aphelios Caitlyn for so long.
Yeah,
and Zeri.
And Zeri, yeah. All these like super hyper carries have really been popping in. But Ashe all of a sudden has popped up it's not even the same like utility build. You're not going for anything like crazy in the laning phase. It's just kind of stock standard for what Ashe was doing before this. It's still got good damage. And the important bit is just pushing power, which I think is held as well from Ashe over top of a lot of these other champions. The range advantage is here as well for Ashe, which is of interest against this Kai'Sa matchup, which again, I think it continues to put pressure onto Potato, who had this massive roaming performance in the previous game that now this time probably won't have the same as long as JRAF and Tree Kangaroo are using this range advantage they've got to the best of their abilities.
Highly agree. See the little bit of bullying happening. Rise being put between a ball and a wall. Not exactly their idea of fun. Bard Ashe, as you were talking about, very troublesome indeed to deal with. But here we go. Skittles looking to assassinate in a whole different kind of way.
Wow.
A beautiful rune prison. The setup is gorgeous. And first blood for Skittles.
And it's actually kind of incredible. Hemel had an idea of the setup because Skittles came running out of the brush, but it was Ralik's flash root that caught him off guard. He wasn't prepared for the Rise to go in. Instead, expecting maybe, I think, a little bit more of a run-in from Skittles. He wanted to flash the Q or the E coming out from the Volibear, but wasn't expecting for that E root to come in from Ralik off the flash, and so he was stuck in position to allow a very easy gank for Skittles. Didn't burn his own. Was just the teleport burn from Hemel, so there is that at least. But again, very early impact health from Skittles on this incredibly powerful early game champion. Nothing shocking about that one.
I love to see this too from Rises, ready to lock in that room prison. Sorry, and Topo taking a hefty trade as we do see the first hot shot into the jungle. Skittles saying drats, I've been spotted. But yeah, it's been the Scuttle exchange. Ooh, Emerald Potato getting feisty.
Just a little bit. Trying a little bit of something. After spotting Skittles on this bottom side, I think that JRAF and Tree Kangaroo are comfortable just looking to try to slow stack this wave and push it in. Mostly because Skittles is on a pretty bad timer at the moment.
Oh, Tree Kangaroo. He's in a punishing situation, getting absolutely punished for it. A nice stun at night. Doesn't finish off Jurassic, trying to see if he can get trapped, but it's objective bounty coming in at the speed of sound. Got places to go. He's going to follow his rainbow. 2 kills in succession to the bot lane of UT Dallas.
So I understand everything that plays out right here, which is that number one, Skittles off the back of that gank was slower at clearing than Objective Bounty, which let Objective Bounty get this first move on the map, and went back to bottom side, able to cover for whatever happened on bottom lane. And so because they had spotted Skittles and because they had bottom side coverage from Objective Bounty, the aggression was there from JRAF and Tree Kangaroo. And while Admiral Potato actually had a really good engage, looking to try to punish the Bard's positioning, maybe not expecting that because they had their own jungler, Skittles was behind. Skittles really needed to not show up to a fight like that, and so you cannot expect the Volibear to be there in that particular case. So it ended up being, even though it was so close for Potato to get the one-on-one versus the support, even though they were very close to kind of turning things all together, they never were going to have the support of their jungler the way that Objective Bounty off that back was going to have the back of the side of JRAF and Tree Kangaroo, which is, to me, a little overextension from Bay State, but again, that's without information. I think it's communication breakdown between he and Skittles, and really good from UT Dallas to understand where they're allowed to push and where they're not allowed to push in that case.
Bro, Volibear still has not batched yet. It is farming up, ready when they get back to the base to have a nice bit of itemization. But yeah, like you said, it's a little bit of the greed equals feed mindset that came in there. Potato really wanting to get the kill, but now this bot lane have a blemish in their KDA inside this. As the trades continue to happen over here in the top side. Greg is not appreciating.
Yeah, Topopotamus was able to keep Tesori there, I think, a little bit longer than he would have wanted. Now going to get a collapse of the wave underneath the tower. It's going to force the TP from Tesori a little bit later than Topopotamus had. And they're matched in terms of, like, very early items. Ooh, action here against Potato, but it's not going to matter. He's pretty tanky on the Leona, so not all that concerned.
Yeah, but, I mean, you get to see exactly what happens. One stun from this Bard, and how do you get away from this Ashe once she starts free hitting upon you, right? Like, this is... actually a terrifying situation to be in if it's the Kai'Sa who gets hit by the stun.
And you could see the attempted push out from bottom side. Jurassic and Potato are able to get the wave underneath the tower, so even though Objective Bounty is around with probably much better items than what Skittles holds in his inventory right now, because it was a more recent back, the push was enough to get them onto Dragon first, and they have the Rise there first. There's going to be interactions on both sides of the map.
Here we go, team fight. Emerald Potato trying to buy some space, fighting 3 members on their own while the Oriana is being chased off. Potato drops to Objective Bounty, and Bay State just make out with the Dragon. Tree Kangaroo finding a way onto Jurassic, but not enough there. Shockwave comes up huge, gets Jurassic. They find a kill onto the Rise, and UT Dallas are looking much more in control.
Great group up. The bottom side, again, able to push out the wave fast enough, and they have impact with the Bard and with the Ashe to be able to get into position properly. But the biggest thing is, again, they had used push from both mid and bottom lane, but that fell apart. They weren't able to take the Dragon fast enough for that to matter, because the deployment from UT Dallas ended up coming out. Without top laners, either one of them having teleports, one of your biggest frontliners, one of your biggest CC members in Topopotamus was not there for Bay State, and so they kind of fell to pieces all around the Dragon. I know Skittles wanted to prioritize that one. They end up with the Hextech Drake, but that's why they lose the fight afterwards, because the chasing power was there for UT Dallas. That's a solo for Nasori.
Just smack them up, drop it on their head,
Skittles.
and now it is the Gragas who is fearing for his life. Skittles is just going to farm the wave here, give the Gragas some false hope that he might be able to live. You're not going to be able to. Skittles is going to go ahead and claim his life. He was waiting for this Rise to come in and secure the kill. What a good guy.
So easy to be able to hand that kill off as well. It's top lane where Dasori kind of burns everything except Flash, getting the solo kill against Topopotamus. But again, he's just not there to be able to punish when Skittle shows up. He's able to force him from taking a full back timing or anything like that. And Ralik, again, moves really quickly to be able to punish on top side alongside his jungler. Swaps as well, so Topopotamus gets a bit of the mid wave. But more importantly, again, it is the top lane plates going into Ralik's pocket that's starting to become a bit problematic. Again, it's the Volibear and Rise that I'm keeping my eyes on very specifically in the earlier stages of the game to have the biggest impact, and those are the people that are really getting any marginable amount of gold for Bay State before the setup comes where all of a sudden Jurassic, Potato start to get involved.
Check this out. Bard has rotated over here to the top side river, so it is just the Ashe by themselves. Skittles caught out of position. Beautiful pop there, forcing the flash, the onslaught of shadows. This god is terrified. Gragas gets himself the kill.
And right there, like you said, it's the combination of Tree Kangaroo being on top side with everybody else. They had top push as well. They just had 3 members of the river, 4 members in support with Hamel showing up as well. That really kind of cost it right there. Now, that was problematic from Bay State.
Oh, here we go. Killer Instinct used. The cleanse comes in. Draft uses the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, but the shutdown still goes over. An auto attack, a failed flash later, and a shockwave to Admirable Potato. Will not find a kill, and it's a double for the Oriana. Sejuani needs to run for the hills. There is a Bard in the side taking a magical journey to force this Sejuani back to the safety of their tower.
And Bay State kind of fumbled the bag in a couple of avenues. Number one, their topside fight, that was just, it sounded non-existent because they had reinforcements. But then they attempted to go on the bottom side because they think, okay, UT Dallas has shifted 4 members up the top side. They're going to have to go for the Rift Herald. They're going to take it. But UT Dallas has no challenge, right? And so that allows for Tree Kangaroo and Hemel both to leave where they're at. First off, Tree Kangaroo going for a back and then running back up mid lane. But more importantly, Hemel with the teleport, because there is no threat as stealing the Rift Herald is not in the play, they are able to go and cover for bottom side. Yes, you ended up losing your ADC, but JRAF is perfectly fine with that because it ended up being 2 full kills for the Oriana in the back pocket for one of the more important team fighters on this team. Bay State kind of grasping at straws a little bit to look for a punish on bottom side, are not able to capitalize on it.
And they gotta be careful too, because look at some of the itemization that is being secured. Triforce on the Hacker and Blade the Ruin King just completed for the Ashe. These are some of the members that are really getting strong, and that's not even to bringing the Oriana into the conversation. 3-1-1 on the champion and having a much, much better look on this Oriana.
There's been far better coverage, I think, from the side of UT Dallas, where in the previous game, it felt like fights were disjoint. They weren't able to kind of put their pieces together. It was a 5-on-5 composition that really didn't have much strength. But again, you can see the differences in a game like this, where you put a Gragas in your side lane, which is kind of self-sufficient. You put an Ashe and a Bard in your side lane, which is more self-sufficient. You can see Admiral Potato just having a Hex Flash out of that situation.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that much. You have so much more control over the map in this game than you did in the previous for UT Dallas to be able to work with.
Phage Rush, get out of dodge. You do not want to be there. There is a party in the bot side. The hotshot secures the vision on who's going to be where. Skittles goes into the bat line, kills the Orianna. The Onslaught of Shadows goes into the bat line, gets rid of Volibear. Admiral Potato is here in the back line. The Hecarim running wild. Jurassic, though, will use that killer instinct to get in range. A triple kill for the Hecarim, but Bay State Blue come out on top. The Zori looking to possibly 1v2. There is a Sejuani. There is a Kaisa looking to throw a couple barrels, possibly look for the steal. Have to keep our eyes posted as it's a little bit of zoning coming out from the Sejuani. The explosive cast doesn't find its mark, and that will be Infernal Drake for Bay State Blue.
And it's actually like an invade from UT Dallas where they're walking into all the members of Bay State, which is on paper really good because you're up about 2,000 gold, but you're not up such a ridiculous amount of gold that you can go throwing your weight around the way that UT Dallas just did, because they go in and attempt to fight Skittles, but they left their backline completely unprotected. It was a really good read from Skittles to go jumping over the wall to immediately get a burst onto Hemmel so that no ultimate could come through. The Orianna damage, the one who's most fed on the team, is not going to be involved in the slightest. And yes, it did open up for a little bit of counterplay from Objective Bounty, who was able to kind of wreak havoc on some of the characters as well. But the biggest thing is you've now dug not only the Volibear and Rallic, who are starting to look good, but Jurassic got dug out of a really big hole where he was down effectively 3 kills on the bottom side and now has himself a completed item, a completed pair of boots, is looking towards to being able to carry a game like this. And not just that, but also the double dragon take here for Bay State buys them so much more time than what they had previously as well.
I honestly think that the Kaiser is probably even in gold now with the Ashe, right? Like, has the CS advantage, has the same amount of kills, has the same amount of assists, but you can actually see is above in gold technically. But here we go, Enchanted Crystal Error into the bot lane. Beautiful use. They are going to be able to get that stasis on lock. Potato gets the heal, and it will be enough to buy so much time. Skittles comes up huge. Shutdown coming across the table. Remworth into the side. The flank is real. Ashe is taken off, and a beautiful shockwave onto 2 members. Hemmel finds the kills, but will drop himself a triple kill to Skittles.
You have to be so careful for UT Dallas. They got really hyphy at the beginning of the game because they've got this composition that works well together. They won a very quick fight around the Dragon because Bay State Blue had not really done their due diligence to truly set it up the way that you wanted to. Yes, you pushed out mid, yes, you pushed out bot, but that isn't enough to actually deny UT Dallas. But recently, it feels like UT Dallas expect themselves to be so far ahead that they can win just about any fight by, again, throwing all of their weight into a single area. But the thing is, the newsflash that keeps hitting them is that Bay State is also really powerful in the early game, and their champion spikes so much faster. You can see that tangibly in Skittles, who's able to, basically 1v3 in the right circumstance if he's got the ultimate readily available. And so, time and time again now, we've actually seen UT Dallas be the ones who are trying their best to really do damage to the opposition, but Bay State's been able to absorb it because they're the ones making the coverage happen. They're denying UT Dallas the advantageous numbers to really be able to put down what they want to put down.
You see the plays attempted to go through into the bot lane, trying to catch out the Rise, but this Phage Rush makes him so incredibly difficult to actually catch. And I agree with you, right? Skittles in this early to mid game has been completely unbearable, and it's been UT Dallas struggling to find ways to be able to deal with the unique angle. Skittles just saying, Unga Bunga, I'm in your back line, let's go. I'm still playing Zed. At least he's playing like it, as he is just the assassin that the team needs.
He is. Both these top laners are getting really tanky as well, so the more impact we'll see in team fights from these two when their teleports are up, but in the meantime, they're just kind of farming away. But the importance of this is that top Hippopotamus is in a position where the flame push is better for the Sejuani right this second, because Desori doesn't go for any AP, instead goes for the full tank, and that means that the Sejuani has first access to top river, which is why I think Bay State makes the conscious decision to put their bottom lane in mid, despite bottom tower having taken a Rift Herald shot earlier on and kind of putting it down. They're opening up the possibility of grabbing Rift Herald in exchange for the bottom side tower into the Ashe, which is their way of saying we don't believe that JRAF's Ashe is that big of a problem in a game like this. They're much more concerned at making sure that the gold is in the pockets of their carries than they are with giving gold away, to the side of JRAF, right? Which is an interesting idea. It's just that, like, okay, do you believe in Jurassic's Kai'Sa to carry a game or not? Here's a topside dive.
Well, yeah, there's a topside dive and there's bot side action as well as the Gragas goes down, but so does the Rise. A trade across the map. And Skittles, he's holding on to Herald, looking to make him pay with this inner tower, it seems.
Unfortunate that they don't have their Kai'Sa here to be able to punish with it, because again, this was, to me at least, the whole intention should have been to try to get gold into your Kai'Sa in exchange for a lot of what would happen. But they did end up trading tower for tower without burning the Rift Herald, which means that they grab another one for it. That is a wasted Rift Herald if I've ever seen it. That is,
yeah, I was about to say...
It's going to get some damage, but...
I saw everybody back, and I was just like, Skittles isn't going to use Rift Herald here. There's no reason to. Everybody's back, like you were talking about. They're just going to try it again. I mean, they always have another opportunity, right? But, nah, he just says nah.
Interesting. Ooh, okay, yeah, top bottom isn't quite close enough to burn that one. Ooh, Skittles. Yeah.
Not able to find them. Lightning comes down, but doesn't find the mark. Jurassic, though. Oh my god, these arrows!
Kind of incredible. The perma slow that happens onto the Kai'Sa. It doesn't matter if you've got the E. It doesn't matter, like, you're going to have to burn an ultimate at some point to just get away from the non-stop barrage.
Oh, Jurassic.
You can see...
Oh, Jurassic! Oh,
no.
Jurassic! No, you're right into this pony. The Onslaught of Shadows, a little bit of overkill, but the kill's secured indeed, as this is Dragon for UT Dallas.
This would be a point where I think Rallick actually just needs to ult its top wave and then attempt to pull teleport or something from the side of UT Dallas, because that would give Topopotamus a massive advantage to come influence a fight, right? If Rallick shows up on top wave right now, pushes it in, almost certainly they've got the ability to push for top tower, but now it's too late because Desori's already got the back off. He's going to be at the top tower, so it doesn't matter that the Rift Herald charged. I was expecting Rallick to get there a lot faster, but does not do so, as UT Dallas has wrestled their way back into a game like this. Off the back of a nice pick onto Jurassic, they didn't have full control of the jungle. That bottom side push really paying dividends for UT Dallas.
Really doing great work. That control ward has been there for so long too. So really doing the work that is needed. And I like this from UT Dallas as well. I want to give them props because they're controlling the vision in which they have the leeway to be able to move. Look at the line of wards that they have going through the bot lane as a response to the bot lane action that happened a couple minutes ago. They set that all up for that play, and it still remains. And playing around that vision netted them this bit of a lead, this advantage. However, last time they had the lead, we saw what happened. Bay State were able to play a good old-fashioned game of tug of war with them. So keeping our eyes posted on how they move around the map from both these squads.
Oh, Jurassic getting a little feisty right here, running into Desori, who's this massive tank Gragas. Not going to be able to chip through his health bar. He's got board of two others, but they're going to get caught out in the jungle, I think. They see each other.
Well, Xenoblade misses. Tree Kangaroo taking a magical journey over here to be that supportive comrade, but nothing to happen out of it. All the abilities miss, so no action to be had.
Yeah, right now, it's a question of what is Dallas going to do, because at the moment, they've shifted their Bard into mid lane. They understand top dive could come in, and they're going to try to push out bottom wave, but that's not going to happen because Sejuani is here. They're going to look to dive them, but...
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to, but here you go. Skittles just jumping on the Desori. They're laying in so much damage. The Killer Instinct is used. Skittles is unstoppable, and look, Volibear Dive is just that much better. Enchanted Crystal Arrow, it connects onto Rise. They're locking him down. Nowhere to go. As that back to your tower, they mess up the root. Don't connect with it. Topopotamus is here, but that Blade of the Ruined King, Ashe, is tearing, mulching through the HP bar of this Sejuani.
The trade-off here actually very much favors, I think, Bay State. They not only trade the kills, but there were no towers taken from the side of UT Dallas, which was traded specifically onto Jurassic, and they're going to start at the Baron. They've got the damage for it, absolutely. It's a question of whether they see it. Nice hawk shot coming in from JRAF just to make sure that they're going to be able to catch that out. Absolutely disgusting ability coming out from JRAF right there. But yeah, it was a positive play, I think, ultimately from Bay State. They didn't quite get enough, because I know UT Dallas had to respond to being like, okay, they've got 3 full members, they've got a Volibear ready to dive a very low tower. But they weren't able to set up anything, unfortunately, that more than that mid dive that required so much onto Rallic that it just feels like they burned too much for very little payoff that didn't even win them the situation like that. So now, looking across the map, top lane is going to be pushed in really far. I think the response has to be that Bay State needs to start playing for bottom side push and to make sure that that's going to be shoved out so that when third dragon comes about, they can try to grab that one relatively freely from UT Dallas, and then they get to control a lot more what happens around the pit, a lot more what happens around some of the soul stacking type abilities.
Also, there is a TP advantage for UT Dallas. Both TPs were used just to get to the mid lane to be like, no, don't take our outer mid tower. So it's limping. It's barely able to stand, but they saved it. But now this Gragas, this Orianna, they have that TP advantage. All it could take is one call that Bay State Blue finds themselves at a disadvantage at, where they aren't able to secure an objective off the TP play, and yeah, very troublesome spot. UT Dallas could find a movement to balloon their gold lead, but it's even. It is completely dead even between these two squads.
Here we go.
Yeah, this is Objective Bounty. Onslaught of Shadows used. He'll gallop away from the river.
Kind of an unfortunate situation. If Bay State are able to make that pick happen, you already saw Hemmel going to bottom side. I was really proud of Rallic because he pushed a wave, but then didn't show on the next one quite yet, and it left actually under bottom tower.
They're going for J-Rap there, lock him down. Jurassic finds the kill. Objective Bounty is on the side looking for somebody. Two vital carries have been put in stasis, but they come right back, and it's A-OK. Gragas looking for the flank. He is going to lay in a good amount of damage onto the Sejuani, and that is going to be a beautiful explosive cast to be able to land on the potato. He is left without a life raft as Sejuani getting bopped over here. It's the top lane combat, but the rest of the team were joined in, and Tree Kangaroo finds the kill. Jurassic running for his life, pinned up against the wall, will find himself into safety. A beautiful worm warp, and Bay State Blue just barely survived the onslaught of UT Dallas.
And it's a place where Bay State, they're looking for a pick around the Baron buff, and they don't quite get it onto Objective Bounty, but they believe, because the Hecarim is out of the fight, that there's not really that much competition left on the side of UT Dallas, so they go diving into the mid tower. The teleport, though, from Hevel is able to get there fast enough, because, again, it's another situation in which Bay State Blue can't really, both teams have gone back and forth on not being able to you quite fast enough to really shove off the other one. And so, yeah, they get this pick, yeah, they're able to get mid tower, but the response afterwards with the shockwave, with everything else that comes through, with a nice flank coming out from Desori, is actually very good response from UT Dallas that nets them the second dragon in the game, keeps the gold nice and even. As the game continues, again, as we continue talking about this, the fight is looking good for UT Dallas, right? They've got members all over the place that are capable of carrying. The other side has the same thing with Jurassic. We're in for a very long haul of the game, I sense, right now, Travis, just because of how this has been playing out thus far.
Every time I see the Enchanted Crystal Arrow goes, man, my anxiety kicks in. I'm like, Jurassic has not caught any of them, but it takes one time, and Jurassic will... We've seen what happens when he's not stunned, right? Like, it is a troublesome position to be inside of. Hemmel trying to get some support to Objective Bounty. Possible catch out. Skittles not going to be able to pursue through that magical journey. No. Wait a second, they're going for it. But look at this, they're going to get themselves tagged up. A beautiful shockwave telegraph, but it's only onto Potato. No squishy members. Hecarim finds the kill onto Sejuani, but Bay State Blue is so disorganized in this fight. Skittles cannot move. A double kill for Hecarim as he has been completely unleashed into the backline. And UT Dallas take notice and punish the over-aggression.
It is constantly the team that makes the first move inside of these fights that really ends up paying the price for it most of the time. The response on both teams ends up being incredibly valuable. Here, it was so telegraphed. They're getting somebody out with a portal, and you're going to walk right through the portal. That's like one of the first rules of League of Legends is don't go through Bard portal most of the time, because you know he's waiting there with a stun. You know they're waiting there with some kind of CC, and this was an exact example of that. You have the setup of the ball to be able to land a fantastic shockwave, and that puts a position where UT Dallas is just striking with all these big ultimates well before Bay State ever really has a chance to put everybody together and start doing damage. And Bay State's just getting a bit hyphy constantly over the course of this game.
Dude, look how up and down this chart is. Almost like a game of hot potato with the gold leads here, as it just keeps flopping back and forth, and you can even see a majority of this gold lead, man, is on not only the carries, but also this Hecarim, who has had a fantastic performance for themselves inside of the game. Jurassic and Giraffe, they're still, hey, they're still in the same amount of gold, but honestly, that Giraffe's been able to have so much higher impact on this Ashe so far.
Yeah, the arrows have been massively influential. The CC from just hitting somebody in the front line, denying Skittles access to a lot of the fights has been really big too, just because, again, if Volibear starts running in and you hit him with even just a little bit of CC to deny him, like, it's so painful to have to deal with. You can see the bottom side push is the attempted response from Bay State. They're going to lose a fair amount, actually, off of the mid tower. I wonder if they're just going to try to push with Kai'Sa. Everybody else is going to back. They understand the inhibitor's probably gone, even if most of their team is here, and they're just going to be okay with that to make sure that Kai'Sa gets a bit more gold in the back pocket.
Enchanted Crystal Arrow does go wide again, too, so they lose a big initiation tool. They could look for, like, a Shockwave Hecarim play. Himmel's been really setting up their own Shockwaves this entire time. I don't think we've seen a single Shockwave where it's been on the Hecarim.
Okay, I thought we were base racing for a minute. Himmel finally is going to get back. It's a question of whether Jurassic can clutch the one-on-one against the very powerful Orianna. He doesn't tend to believe he can.
Now, TP is coming in. Yeah, this is the play. They stop the Kai'Sa from continuing to push. But check this out. Kai'Sa says, all right, well, cool. I'm just going to continue. I'm not going to be able to assist you guys,
huge.
but that's the stasis onto 2 members. Sejuani taking some hurt. Kai'Sa is going to finish the recall. Shockwave connects onto 2 members. Onslaught of Shadows into the backline. Jurassic joins the fray, but has the damage been done? UT Dallas continue to oppress their will, looking to take this into a 3-game series. Skittles goes into the back line, but is completely held in place. Cannot go anywhere except the express route to the fountain. Bay State Blue has been fully routed, and this is game for UT Dallas.
I can see strikes where, like, Bay State had these moments of actually trying something really impressive, and I think that there's a lot to build on and a lot to improve on from Bay State's side, but UT Dallas is doing, I think, what they were really intended to do in a game like this, which is wait and scale up to when their team fight really started striking. They were doing it too early, very early on, because they were like, we got a bit hyphy, we've got this Hecarim pick, everything's working for us, let's just keep fighting, and it gave an avenue back for Bay State, but Bay State were not able to kind of clinch down what it was that they needed to do to put their carries in a position to, like, 1v5 a game like that, right? Jurassic never really got the resource necessary to be able to kind of work their way through a fight the way that you would expect him to in a game like this, or that you would need him to in a game like this. And because of that, UT Dallas, they're taking us to a game number 3 off the back of a pretty solid performance with a scaling composition once again.
I am so excited for this game number 3, Rebel. I know it's looking like it's going to be a fun one after what was a back and forth affair in game number 2. We're going to have to take ourselves a short break, and when we come back, game number 3 here, Rebel, between these 2 collegiate squads, looking to see who will be able to reign supreme between the 2 of them. So make sure you don't touch that browser, as we will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Game number 3 here inside of the UPL. You're just now joining us. My name is Travis. I'm joined here with my co-caster, Rebel Thoughts. Rebel, we have seen 2 completely different kinds of games here with 2 completely different kinds of results from both of these squads.
It's been a little bit wild to actually think about what happened in game 1 versus what happened in game 2, where it felt like game 1 was so clean when it came to understanding how you can get your composition going from the side of Bay State Blue. Only to then in game number 2, it felt like they could do the exact opposite. The exact opposite was true, where it felt like they didn't really have a great grasp or didn't have a great coordination on making sure that they needed to get gold or where to get their composition where it needed to be, which is kind of tragic. So now we walk into game 3 with a little bit of uncertainty as to which team we're actually going to see, whether or not the draft has a massive impact on that. It's clear that I think bottom lane was a lot less comfortable with the Ashe and the Bard going in to the side of UT Dallas. So they found themselves a little bit of comfort down there. They found something that works. You think about like the Heck Room being very valuable so far for this team as well. What kind of changes are we going to see now?
I'm going to tell you my personal change. This comes from more of a personal bias, akin to how you felt with Syndra last season. I got my pick. It's the Kai'Sa I don't want to see, man. I don't want to see. Fun fact, I think inside of season, ever since the season has started, Kai'Sa has been winless every game I've casted it. I have not seen a Kai'Sa win inside of North American Amateur when I've been casting it. So I don't want to see it anymore.
Here's what I think really needs to get dug down to, right? Why is Rallick not taking Fizz yet, right? Like, okay, listen, right?
Real questions.
Real questions, real facts that really need to be considered. This team clearly knows how to play with an assassin, right? Like that's very evident. Topopotamus loves the Sejuani. I think the Sejuani's been great. I think they do need to make sure that it's not in a matchup that's going to get stonewalled by Desori, because that was kind of rough in the last one. But they had ways to set them up that could have been better. I think Jurassic and Potato could go to very standard laning phase against JRAF and Tree Kangaroo. And I don't think that would do any deficit to them. I really don't think that would be a problem. I feel like Jurassic and Potato have been fine in the laning phase. The last time they kind of got punished on a really weird timer, JRAF and Tree Kangaroo were able to jump on them in really effective pursuits. But were enough for some of that early game action that came out. I feel like Jurassic and Potato would have been okay, and they would have been fine in that game. And Skittles has been playing great too on some of the earlier game junglers. So what I want to see is, let's get creative, man. The Zed pick in game 1 was really, really hot for Skittles. Give me the Fizz, man. Give me the AP version of it. Throw it in the mid lane. Let me see Hemo get rocked around by Rallick a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see it inside of game number 1, right? Like, Rallick was able to really put in the heat inside the mid lane, and there was quite a bit of synergy. And hey, look, if you're worried about things like engage and stuff like that, like, yeah, sure, he had a great Rise game, still was able to perform on that. Let's lock in some champions other places to be able to support. You're already playing Sejuani top. You're already playing stuff like Volibear in the jungle. Let's see what else is in the tank. Take Hecarim away. I like this objective bounty. That's looked good on this champion all series long. So, it's on to them to adapt.
It will leave up Caitlyn, Zeri, and Jinx are all available at the moment. And so UT Dallas has to consider, do we go for a third support ban in a row? Again, akin to what they had done in the previous game. No, the Volibear is getting taken off. I think that makes a lot of sense. Hecarim's one of the very few that could try to contest, but Volibear was clearly stronger in the beginning of the game in the last one. I wanted to give that one over. And I don't think banning 5 supports when you're leaving up Thresh and Leona are really, really hurting Potato all that much. So what I want to see is ban Caitlyn here, I think, is the best option. Leave up the Zeri. You give yourselves the options for going for a number of different things. The Bard ban, I think, is more just making sure T Kangaroo is going to get held to something that's less comfortable, because it was clearly something that they weren't prepared for. But every ADC under the sky is available now. There is no Jinx ban. There's no Zeri ban. There's nothing banned out right now. The Ashe is available as well. Everything is up for both these teams, and it's a decision that both of them have to make. Do you want that counter pick, or do you want to try to take something powerful? Do UT Dallas really want to go for the Jinx immediately?
Ooh, wow. He's in. Instantly locked in. They really have faith in objective bounties gameplay here. Locking it in right at the get-go. Skittles has been responding almost immediately to whatever jungle picks have been coming out from UT Dallas, though.
in game one, they held it for a while because they were preparing something really weird, right? Like they had the Zed pick under the wraps. But I don't think Xin Zhao is just a bad option in response alongside the Jinx. I think that's a perfect 1-2 combination. If you really want to get tricky, again, it's a question of whether Skittles can run the Sejuani in the jungle position, because if you can, I think that's the perfect grab here, because you're just not ready for it. And especially if it's like Sejuani versus Lee Sin and you're comfortable with that kind of a matchup for Skittles, you're giving up some of the early game, you're forcing objective bounty to really play aggressively, but you do get that option of having the top jungle combination of versatility. Otherwise, I think it's just better to go for what would be the Xin Zhao here. But instead, I think the Poppy is the lock-in for the jungle, which makes sense. It's just better in the one-on-one than I think anything else could really come about. It's a direct counter pick to what the Lee Sin is going to be for objective bounty, assumably going into the hands of Skittles.
Yeah, assume and play. I honestly, I'm not sure until we get into round 5 of the picks, right? Like, until you actually pick up all 5 of your champions, I could see anybody going anywhere with Bay State, but UT Dallas, they lock in the Ashe, makes sense, was great on Giraffe. Now, UT Dallas, do you guys, the Rise is still open, the Orianna as well. They have not pit locked in mid lane here from either side.
Haven't locked supports either. You know that's going to be the case. You have to assume here the potential response could come through. Yeah, if you go Control Mage, again, the threat of the Fizz is definitely active right now, and I really would love to see it. Although into Victor, it's not particularly easy to try to manage, just because, again, the W, the Qs being ranged, having a lot of wave clear, it's going to deny quite a bit. And so the Rise, I think, is a lot safer of an option, but it will cause my heart quite a bit of infraction now, because there is no Ashe to come about, or there's no Fizz to come about now.
Yeah, it will leave your heart a little bit broken, but I will go ahead and say we do get something fun, a little bit of some urgency. The Ahri being played. I like this pick. This gives a little bit of more individual playmaking ability in the mid lane.
Yeah, Rallick has played this quite a bit as well. I think coming into the day, if you're thinking about Assassins, he was going to be willing to play. LeBlanc was on the list. Fizz was definitely on the list. I was hoping for it. But it is actually the Ahri that makes the most sense. It's powerful right now in the meta, works decently into the Victor. If you get a little bit of attention from Skittles, again, this mid-jungle combination, maybe on paper, this doesn't work into everything, but specifically into Victor Lee Sin, I feel like you deny so much of what these two are able to accomplish together to be able to capture mid-priority and make sure Rallick is out and about, making a lot of noise elsewhere on the map, and especially when you've got Jinx in your back pocket, you've already set yourself up for success in that bottom side as well.
Bands next up. Support is still not picked, so I think we're going to see another pinch. Rakan's going to get taken away again. Potato's not getting that champion again inside the series, I feel. On the other side, they're getting rid of all the safe top laners from the Zori.
Reasonable. Yeah, the real flex here is if they take Sejuani at R4 here on the side of Bay State, and then they flex it to bottom lane and put it in support for Potato, and top Hippopotamus just gets this amazing counterpick top lane, whatever it's going to be. That would be the flex of the century, and something that I would be completely down for. The Poppy still has an option to go top lane as well, but again, expectation for the champion is definitely that it's better suited for jungle at the moment in most cases. So
yeah, I would agree with you. I like the world in which we live in, where they just say, all right, let's go full chaos. Let's do it. But wow, Rakan left open actually. They said they value banning away Leona instead. We did see Jeets Rakan be the call for Bay State Blue inside of game number 1. Went deathless in that game. See if they're still feeling the magic.
I think support is a better option here. If you go top laner, you're going blind top laner, and like you said, Rakan was so good for Potato. They don't have anything that's really going to abuse it here, because they don't have the Leona, they don't have the Thresh, they don't have like anything ranged for the most part. I guess Lulu probably is the option that I'm looking at here, but then it's double kind of squishy on the bottom side to be potentially aggressed against by Ahri and by by Poppy, things like that. The Nautilus isn't my preferred pick into this either, because it runs the same problem as the Leona. This is more interesting because you have a lot better wave push on bottom side with a Morgana pick. That's a fair amount more interesting. And what's nice is that they've also drawn out now that Bay State actually gets a counterpick top lane for the first time in the series, specifically for top Hippopotamus to be able to set himself up for success. And it's not shocking Desori goes to the Ornn. That's been the blind pick of choice for him on the top side. So now top Hippopotamus, he sees exactly what's in front of him. What does he actually want to go for? What has he got in the back pocket to punish the Ornn pick with?
Yeah, he's been on Sejuani duty for the past 2 games. So, Mordekaiser could be very spicy. Haven't been able to see it have great success out here in the North American Amateur scene. That's a Lilia.
Okay. See, now we have a bit of shenanigans with where the Lilia ends up. I have to expect Poppy going to topside now, which is kind of unfortunate. It's good into the Ornn, but I was really hoping for the pure jungle matchup. But Skittles here picking up the Lilia. Pretty much the only person I've seen in a long time take this Lilia pick into the jungle. Really, really interesting decision here. You've got ways to contest into backline with like the marble and things along those lines, but I feel like getting into backline is actually a little difficult for Lilia in this game because you've got Ashe in front of you, you got Morg with the black shield to protect against things. Victor controls so much space. This feels like a really, really strange Lilia pick. It has to be just that Skittles is very well versed in some matchup that we're looking at here, or really thinks that the ultimate is going to be incredibly valuable here, because otherwise I'm really losing the angle that's coming out from this Lilia pick.
Yeah, I got excited there for a moment, Rebel, because I play solo lane Lilia, so I was like, oh yes, it's happening, let's go! But no, it's like you said, it's the jungle, and this is weird. You listed, I could list all the same reasons again, but you just did all that. This just seems like it's going to be very difficult for that wilting lullaby to be able to be as effective as what you wanted. You're looking at a flash hero play to get a wilting lullaby onto 5 to 4 members. So yeah, sure, but even then, like, Ornn just calls in the Ornn horn and blows back everybody on your team. Like, line them up, he'll knock them down.
It is it's a really weird situation because Bay State actually has really good setups for what is topside, like playing for a laning phase. So if Potato gets out and about and starts making an impact against the Victor, against the Ornn, Poppy is a pretty good counter into the Ornn, just being able to shut out his dashes with the W and then having enough damage, percentage health damage, to be able to kind of chip through his health and be a pretty good brawler in that top side. Also shuts out Lee Sin really effectively, so it's a little difficult to gank the Poppy, especially post level 6. And it opens up for Lilia to really gank for top lane where you've got a melee champion, and gank for mid lane if a charm lands, something like that. That if the Rakan starts making impact, then UT Dallas really does suffer quite a bit in the early phases. They don't have that much damage when the Victor isn't online, when the Ashe isn't on 2 items. But the thing that makes that hard is this Morgana pick. I feel like this Morgana pick was ridiculously clutch from Tree Kangaroo to throw everything into disarray, not only preventing the Rakan roaming, but also you're preventing Lilia sleeps, you're preventing Ahri charms, you're keeping your carries really safe with just the one black shield. It is a valuable champion here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in game number 3 here between UT Dallas and Bay State Blue. Let us know in Twitch chat who you got. We get to see where all the champions are. See them all across the map as this collegiate showdown is hitting its final stages.
And what an interesting matchup we've had so far. Because again, it's UT Dallas currently has the advantage in the standings. They're sitting at 3-1 in their groups. They're playing with substitutes today, which has been a really big kind of problem that they've had to deal with on a day like today, where like you really are looking to take this game and be in an advantageous position over Bay State, who are right behind you. If Bay State win here, then they yoink the number, or they're tied at least for like 3rd, 4th place inside of the standings. I think it's 4th, 5th inside the standings. And again, UT Dallas' schedule doesn't get a ton easier because you still have St. Thomas on the docket. You still got UCI on the docket. You've got all these amazing teams that you still have to play to qualify for that playoffs run. So a win here for UT Dallas, it puts them in a much better position against Bay State, who are the people right behind them, to be able to actually qualify, to be able to go into the playoffs for the first time. The UT Dallas hasn't been able to do that really in their tenure inside of UPL. This is the first opportunity they get. So this is a pretty massive game when they're playing with substitutes to be able to keep up the possibility of going to playoffs here.
Keeping the pressure. Don't want to end up in the timeout.
No. No, not in the timeout.
Jurassic is taking a good amount of damage on the trade. That's the aggressiveness that we are expecting to see inside this lane, though. This is Morgana Ashe. This is not a lane that you go into and say, oh, I'm going to have a pleasant time.
Not in the slightest. It is a very difficult lane to manage from both the Jinx's perspective and from the Rakan's perspective. The perma slowing sets up so easily to keep somebody inside the Desolated Earth, or the W from Morgana, or to set up Qs of any kind. The ultimate sets up a great Q, a Q sets up an ultimate, and there's no real defense to it, right? The only defense is plenty of other things. Look at that. Yeah, how hard is it to actually deal with that, especially with Glacial on Tree Kangaroo? It makes it even more difficult to escape afterwards, especially if you hit Jinx, because Rakan can always slide out with like a Battle Dance or something like that, or a Grand Entrance in the opposite direction. But if you tag Jurassic with anything, that means that immediately you're in some pretty dire straits as the Jinx, which is why the Cleanse is here alongside the Flash for some extra defensive tools. I would anticipate a Gale Force as well, just making sure that that doesn't actually end up being the death of the Jinx inside of a team fight, is just getting caught up with so much CC.
See, Tapa doing a good job. Topopotamus having a nice bit of damage into the early trades against this Ornn. Desori is able to heal back up, stays underneath the tower a bit. The push has been there, and check out Tree Kangaroo. Nice roam to just clear out some vision and, you know, get that advantage going for the team. Nice charm onto Objective Bounty, but Objective Bounty making sure to continue early game presence.
So this was really cool, actually. I want to talk about what happened with Skittles here, because it could be relatively deceiving. But you might notice that Objective Bounties only has 24 CS and his entire jungle is empty. And you might be like, why in the world is that? Skittles cleared 2 camps from his own jungle, right? Skittles took out 2 camps from Objective Bounty and gave up both Scuttle Crabs. They're pretty cheap, right? They got nerfed quite a bit, and they're not as valuable. I think both of them together is basically 1 camp. And so you give up priority on the 2 Scuttle Crabs for Vision in the river, and the exchange is quite a bit of power actually taken out of Objective Bounty to get to the level 4 and to start making some of the immediate impact. Yes, you trade off the Krugs, but you're actually giving up tier 2 Raptors for this as well, which are almost certainly not going to get reset by Skittles. And it's Skittles in like the 1v1 chess match against Objective Bounty that really has kind of defined the early stages of this game, barring that one gank that we saw in the mid lane.
You can even see the pressure being laid on. Continuing to keep that counter jungling up could lead into something bigger as this game continues to evolve. This is a Predator Lilia too, right? Like, yes. This is a Lilia that's going to be looking to run at you as fast as possible.
And the advantage that you've got with the additional camps in your back pocket as Skittles, alongside the Lucidity boots that have the Predator on them, means as soon as the level 6 is accomplished or is acquired from Skittles, you're probably looking immediately to go ganking into side of lanes. If you land a double Q on the bottom side through a lapse of vision from JRAF and Tree Kangaroo, you could set this bottom lane into a very different position. You could set mid lane into a great position when you're able to punish the victor, which is why you can see the carries here, they have cleanse for a very good reason. It doesn't matter that there's a Morgana Black Shield. You desperately need to not get caught up in any sort of CC that Lilia is going to be bringing. Otherwise, you're going to get drowned out in the very early stages of the game, and things are going to fall to pieces. So UT Dallas, they're preempting this. They understand this is the situation. Bay State's done a good job of getting Skittles into a position where you can continue to capitalize on this, but again, preparation is there from UT Dallas to not fall victim to it.
Lasers coming in. Skittles looking for a possible play. Brings down the stick and lays in some good work onto Himmel. As it's just going to be a trade, constantly going back and forth.
It's just a little bit of damage thrown onto Himmel, but it's enough to push him back. It's enough for Relic to get really big control of the wave. Objective Bounty.
Yeah. Has the rush. Could use it if need be. Is escaping that without having to utilize the ultimate ability.
Hasn't been anything insane. This is... again, this is kind of where I expected Skittles to end up over the course of this game, to go mid lane. That is the ultimates popped on both mid laners, and that is going to be that. There's no more to be had from it, because Rakan is in the area, and the Victor doesn't, I think, have all that much to continue chasing Relic with. I was wrong. Potato is still in the area, so it shouldn't be that much more pushing. That was really good, though, from Himmel, because that was very greedy from Relic in an attempt to get another wave underneath.
The kill!
Come on!
They get the first blood! You can't just stand next to a wall like that!
You put him into that wall like 3 straight times. I don't know how in the world that actually happens from Desori. But Topopotamus finding great angles to be able to put Ornn into the wall. This is the dueling power that we talked about for the Poppy in the one-on-one matchup. And, game 1, this was how Topopotamus was kind of winning a lot of things. It's just the pure one-on-one that he had as the Sejuani against the Gnar. Game 2, that was canceled. The Grog is still a lot better into the Sejuani. And now in Game 3, they give a superior matchup. Again, the Poppy is the preference pick into the brawling of what the Ornn brings early on. And you can see Topopotamus immediately having a massive impact.
Topopotamus having a great time on the Poppy. Had a great game 1 on the Sejuani, great game 3 so far on the Poppy now. See if he'll be able to continue that pace up in favor of the team. Nice spell shield to keep Giraffe safe from the knockup, but the Ignite has to come through to cleanse the Ignite. Skittles over onto the side, not able to find the mark. So much beautiful vision being laid out in this bot lane to the dismay of Lily.
Yeah, problematic there. You do have the cleanse from JRAF. This is the best player to have to lose the cleanse on, because obviously you got the black shield right there. But it is an opening now that the bottom lane was able to force, where Jurassic has most of the health bar. Rakan is still pretty powerful, that they can open up for the dragon. But it looks like, again, Victor has just kind of jumped out of his wave, which he threw off to the bottom side, which is kind of incredible control right there. And the trade-off is that all of base state basically has to back off. I don't know that they're expecting that. Now Taupo, he's throw W as soon as the chair.
Oh my god!
Just that simple. Incredible.
That is one of the most tilting interactions I've ever seen an Ornn have to go through, as they're looking for more, miss everything, but still get the flash anyways.
That was something else to be able to talk about. Now bottom side, the black shield gets eviscerated immediately, but JRAF doesn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, check this out. Jurassic is fighting him. The Tormented Soul is really dragging down his feet right here. The Ignite is being used. The cleanse is there, but it's not enough to stop these arrows from hitting their mark. A double kill to Draft.
And the CC coming through from the bottom side, specifically JRAF, has now caught off the guard Potato and Jurassic a number of times. The top side is where the power is from the side of base state. They really need to shift it into bottom side when they want to go for plays like this. But this is now the second game in a row where Jurassic and Potato get counterpicked by a
Check this out. Objective Bounty has nowhere to go. He gets taken out. Ari on the rotation will find it. The Wilting Lullaby is used, but it forces to flash a charm to follow, laying in more damage, more punishment onto this Ornn. The Victor is here on the side trying to use that gravity field. Poppy looking to possibly pummel them up against the wall. Super Mega Death Rocket doesn't find its mark. The Poppy is going to try and retreat through the top tower. But now it's Herald, as the members of Bay State Blue have to retreat. Their HP bars are so low, they cannot stick around to contest.
The redeployment there from the side of UT Dallas is to defend the top side of the map where the action was going for Bay State. It almost looked like they wanted to keep going onto top lane, continue to push the Ornn pick. But they like turn back. They're caught a little bit between the options of going for Rift Herald and going for a full combination of ganking for top lane, whatever you want to do. That left Hemel the ability to be able to poke in and kind of find them on their way to the Rift Herald, which stalled them out just long enough to where all of a sudden JRAF and Tree Kangaroo they're coming back from base. And now the swap is coming fully. UT Dallas, they're going to trade off plates to the bottom lane in exchange for the Rift Herald on the top side. They grab it up, but they do have to use it because it's 2 plates into the pockets of Jurassic. That's not really what you want to do. You won't be giving free gold away to the Jinx on the other team without anything else.
Predator used. Not going to find anybody else out of it. Wilting Lullaby is not available either. So just enough to pressure this top side off of the top tower. Objective Bounty is still here. We'll stop the recall of this Lilia, but Jurassic is getting so much free farm. And all these turret plates just belong to Jurassic.
Yeah. Jurassic was able to dodge out, or to dodge out.
The Forge God coming in. Nice from Potato. Zones them out from being able to follow through on the Ornhorn. And altogether, this is coming out perfectly fine for Bay State Blue.
Yeah, Bay State Blue are 100% winning in a situation like this with the Rift Herald having done absolutely nothing so far. Objective Bounty has to find something to do with it, because, again, you've lost 3 plates in the bottom tower. You lost a ridiculous amount of farm because Dezori wasn't able to sit there without Jinx just raining rockets on him. And Topo, on the other side of the map, was collecting waves, even in the face of JRAF and Kangaroo, because Skittles was around to be able to kind of keep him on board. The mid lane matchup is pretty even, although Rallic just has the 1 kill in the back pocket. So again, it's Bay State, whose top side is feeling great. And even though Jurassic and Potato gave up that initial play, they got a little bit too big for their britches before they were able to do so. They are the ones that end up winning out in the situation because, again, UT Dallas, they lean too much of their weight into the top side play that ends up netting them basically nothing.
Bit disasterific from the UT Dallas squad here. Not able to utilize and get some of the gold that they would like to use. Yet again, Objective Bounty is down here in the bot lane, looking for a easier punish for these plates. Lilia is close by. Skittles could possibly pop the Predator at any moment. Look at this Giraffe! He gets popped immediately! Completely assassinated. Objective Bounty is next. The rockets will continue to hit. They were rained down upon UT Dallas. Jurassic finds a triple kill.
Oh my goodness, they completely underestimating the damage that the Jinx is able to land when you have all of it kind of tagged, right? It was everything in the arsenal that landed all at once, and combine that with a Gale Force, and all of a sudden JRAF just wasn't expecting. Now Hemel is just going to go down in the mid lane as well. Oh my goodness. shift across the map from Bay State Blue, where all of a sudden, things went from UT Dallas has some resources, UT Dallas has some counterplay, to now they're going to struggle to find a place to put down the Rift Herald, right? To even get plates onto a specific carry. They're struggling to stay even in the game, because now Jurassic is fed, first tower goes into the bottom side, Skittles is counter jungling, going crazy. Potato's going to be here to try to punish off an objective bounty. And if he dies here, that is just unacceptable, because the Rift Herald is probably not going to go down when Dragon is up as well. So if they lean into using the Rift Herald, Dragon's going to get traded onto Bay State Blue, and the alternative is that they use the Rift Herald in an attempt to grab the Dragon without trying to get plates. They might do both at once by going for bottom tower, but this is allowing a reset for Jurassic and Potato and also Rallic and Skittles to redeploy into the bottom side to look for the Dragon take. Which prompts, of course, now UT Dallas have to pull off the tower, but now the Rift Herald plates are going to nobody. They're going to go into Objective Bounty, not into JRAF, where you'd want that. The trade-off being the Dragon, but again, when it comes to the gold kind of, being allotted into the right place, you would have wanted that gold to go into JRAF, and you would have wanted the Dragon, but apparently they felt they couldn't get both at the same time.
Just so many things going so wrong. Draft is going to be able to find himself one plate here in the bot side after the Herald push. Already did TP down to bot lane to establish some sort of dominance. Jinx in the mid lane trying to get this push going. The rotation has been made, but it is still just a troublesome spot to be inside of, as Admiral Potato is behind Jurassic, giving them a little bit of a feeling of safety for any action that may come. And even check out where Skittles is. Skittles is just chilling.
Yeah. Skittles is waiting in the topside jungle, trying to deny any access for Objective Bounty to get up here, which shuts off, once again, Disorder from playing the game at all, right? Like, there's a Poppy underneath of his tower. He's down 2 levels. He's down about 50 CS, something like that, or 40, probably 40 CS is better, like, a amalgamation of what he's actually lost at this point. But, I mean, again, it's Bay State that are kind of abusing the members of the team that are allowed to be abused in the earlier stages. And the worst part about it is, at the beginning, the expectation was that JRAF and Tree Kangaroo were going to be able to punish Jurassic and Potato, which happened once, but that Rift Herald swap got so much gold back, that one triple kill into Jurassic got so much gold back that they're not even winning that department either.
Yeah, and here we go. There's so much action just popping off inside the fight. This is going to be 3 kills easily to Bay State Blue. Objective Bounty needs to make a swift exit, but will find himself victim to a charm coming in to call the Forge God. It is a TP on the side. Objective Bounty finds the kill on the Skittles, but at what cost? As Ari will be able to finish off the rest of the HP bar. A beautiful escape to be cut off, but the Zora is going to survive the Chaos Storm brewing, and it is Bay State weathering the storm successfully and find themselves a nice advantage for themselves in the mid lane.
And it's another situation where Jurassic kicks this off by trying to get a big burst into Tree Kangaroo, but doesn't quite have the damage for it to begin with. But the reinforcements come in from Bay State. Everybody there to make the dive underneath the mid tower happen, and slowly everybody kind of trickles in, but not enough of UT Dallas is there at the exact same time to really put any true pressure into the 4-on-4, 5-on-5 that they found themselves in over the course of the last minute or so of gameplay. And so Bay State, they were the ones that constantly were controlling when and where people were going to be in a fight. They were the ones constantly putting on aggression and continuing things the way that they wanted to. At no point were they ever threatened into maintaining this kind of aggression against the Objective Bounty or anybody else on the side of UT Dallas. Now, Leeson's stuck in the pit.
Yeah, the Wilting Lullaby has been used. Nice Black Shield to stop it from happening, but the Super Mega Death Rocket catches out the Ashe, and Jurassic has so much urgency with this Gale Force Jinx putting in so much work. Objective Bounty limps away from Herald. Bay State Blue are a different beast. They look mad inside this game number 3.
Taking JRAF down is humongous, and then also getting that big of a pick onto Objective Bounty. This is a winning situation that's humongous, because it allows for Jurassic to really push up mid lane, probably just get this tower. But they're going to get second Rift Herald. Bottom side Ari has been pushing the entire time. There's so much that just got given up because UT Dallas was kind of poking their nose where it didn't belong into some of the pick tools that came out. You've seen how many times now that Jurassic has gotten a full combo with a Gale Force off into somebody aggressively instead of having to use that one defensively. It's been amazing how quickly Jurassic has gone from, dying in that bottom lane 2v2 against JRAF and Tree Kangaroo to being the initiator on this Jinx half the time.
Arrow connects onto Potato. Nothing to come about it, though. This champion, very, very mobile. As you can now look over, the attention is for UT Dallas to siege down this mid lane. This is an objective bounty for them. But look at the damage these rockets do. Look at the charm. Look at the moves. The knockup coming in. And now it's just the HP bars being completely eviscerated, as it is just all of UT Dallas being taken back to the fountain. It's fresh route, a triple for the Ahri. Ornn is going to survive this onslaught for a bit of time, but he is destined to fall like the rest.
It's a situation where it feels like UT Dallas, they were working their way in mid for two reasons. Number one, they had seen Ralik on bottom side previously and kind of expected him to be there or go for a full back instead of walking right up river. And number two, they knew that because the dragon was spawning and they've got two in their back pockets, that they could kind of put pressure onto Bay State by saying, okay, if we've got 3 dragons, you at minimum have to go for that objective without giving that one over to us. If you're comfortable with that, right? They could just give the soul, but it's unlikely they would do such a thing like freely. And that could give us a lot more time in a game like this to work. But UT Dallas, they were so far ahead of this timer, and they weren't tracking where Ralik could possibly be on the map. And he finds in on a massive flank, as now they're trying to catch them on the way out here. But I feel like they're still strong enough to be able to take full-on plays if they need to. Topo can deny objective bounty really heavily. Cooldowns are there as well. Oh my goodness, they've got basically everything back up.
Yeah, they have everything back up. I was scared. I saw the hot shot come through, and I was like, oh my gosh, the Enchanted Crystal Arrow is also back up. They could possibly look for the fight, but they think twice about it. They've known how these fights have been looking for them. There's almost a 10k lead amassed for Bay State. They just grabbed their first dragon, a Mountain Drake in their favor. And you can look at it. Total player gold here. Look at the lead that has been amassed in all the solo lanes and in Jurassic.
It's kind of incredible to see where they've been able to get. And again, this should have been punishment from UT Dallas to the bottom side because they had the strong bot lane. But again, it's a couple decisions here and there that have really cost them when it comes to what they're trying to accomplish on the map, which is really unfortunate because they've had some really solid play. They've had some really competitive kind of moments inside of not just this this game, but in this series in general. This game, they're kind of falling to pieces completely just off the back of that one fact. Their top side kind of got bullied. Their bottom side, took an advantage, then gave it right back to Jurassic and Potato, and has allowed them to kind of dominate across the map. I want to talk about another big one, which is, again, decision-making on the map based on information. Just a second ago, UT Dallas decided to go challenge top lane when the push had come through from Bay State, but in the meantime, it was Skittles that went down and got Dragon. They could have just redeployed into the Dragon, taken that one away from Skittles, and they would have had their 3 dragons stacking. They would have had the possibility of the soul point that could have at least given them some flat stats to work with inside of a game like this, but instead they go for picks, and it just doesn't work out for themselves. Nice ultimates, but they are not hitting anything. They're not accomplishing anything.
Yeah, they don't accomplish anything there, right? Like, that's two of your big engage tools. Ahri is just pushing in the bot lane right now. Like, they're just... like, everything's a whiff. Skittles looking to see if they can catch anybody out, stopping any recalls that could have come about. But this is how Bay State had that convincing Game 1 victory. They just picked the bones of what UT Dallas goes for and say, all right, we're just going to take the more optimal play. We're going to take the turrets. We're going to just continue to shovel gold into our carries.
So the biggest difference between this game and what was Game 1, basically, is that in Game 1, UT Dallas had a very strong point in objective bounties with the Hecarim to be able to attack side lanes with. This game, they don't have that. They don't have a winning side lane at all, and they don't have a powerful enough Lee Sin to punish side lane pushes. And so this means Bay State can actually play on 3 full lanes. It's very rare to see a 1-3-1 that actually works out. But since Ahri is so mobile, and since Poppy is basically impossible to kill for anybody right now, they can continue to push this advantage in multiple places, which is humongous for them. You've seen the number of times that top and mid and bot lane are all pushed in at the same time, which is buying so much space for Bay State Blue to operate in. That's what's allowing them to kind of walk around this bear and kind of bathe things. That is not a fight you want. Objective bounties, you're never winning that one. He's got this one. Okay.
He's got all of his teammates here, though. He's looking at it. His Skittles going golden. The gravity field is there. And with all their powers combined, they find the kill onto Lilia. But now Bay State Blue are in this interesting position. There is a little bit of a pincer trap coming in. They're looking for the fight. Beautiful quickening into the backline. The Super Mega Death Rocket lays the damage as needed. They might have had the numbers advantage, but once the Jinx, once the Aller keep coming in, they are unable to find the angle, and that is Baron and Ace. Bay State Blue looking in complete control.
you can see how easy it is to pick off Skittles when he just decides randomly to walk back into 3 members on the side of UT Dallas instead of walking out the lane where he knows nobody is at. But that doesn't matter because of how far ahead that Bay State actually is. Skittles isn't really necessary to the fight in the same way that Zed wasn't in the beginning of game number 1, because you can see how complete of a team fight you've got when Topo has the ability to get into backline, knock up 3 people, you get the follow-up on Potato, and the only person that really prevents that big combo from coming through is Tree Kangaroo, who got caught up on the front because he was trying to put down wards in the side that they thought that he was going to be coming from. They weren't ready for the flank on the opposite side of the fight, and Bay State capitalized on it incredibly well. Big props to them for being able to spot that angle, even though they had lost Skittles at that point from him making a little bit of a Dumbo mistake going back into the opposing jungle. It doesn't even matter, because again, he's done so much work to get all of them ahead. It ended up in a fantastic place where these carries are just able to do all the work they want.
Okay, Skittles, your team waited to take Baron so you wouldn't get dropped, but here we go. He has the support of his team this time. Objective bounty goes away. Unstoppable is Jurassic, and we have seen that all game long. These rockets doing so much damage. The Spirit Rush coming forward. Tree Kangaroo goes down. The roots, the charms, they hit, they show no mercy, and Bay State is showing no mercy here. That is an ace. That's going to be the game. Bay State Blue come out huge.
And there have been massive moments for every single player throughout the series, but these successes for Bay State Blue, a lot of it's on Potato. You can see the 20 kill participation in this game as the game went on, but also humongous in this game was Ralik. I didn't get a chance to talk about him all that much, being this prospect that I think is incredible, and if he weren't sitting behind Serenok, he would probably be on a starting roster in Collegiate, having an absolute banger of a performance here on the RA, being able to pick people off, massively weaving between everybody. It's just a game of setups. Again, it felt like Bay State now, in 2 of their 3 games, when they were able to take victories, it felt slow to begin with, but it was punishing in the right times and being able to get gold in the right areas to begin, kind of compounding this snowball that would eventually just run over this team fight that was attempted to come out from UT Dallas. They weren't able to really find these aggressive moves. UT Dallas wasn't. That really meant anything. Their decision making was questionable at a number of times. The talent is clearly there, but again, they've got some real things to kind of sweep up if you're on the side of UT Dallas to compete with some of the big ones.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you did bring up the fact about the RA. I think you brought up some great points about the strengths of Bay State inside of it. You've got some power here on your second roster, and you even talked about it at the very beginning, talking about what Bay State had in store for themselves. And I really want to touch on the fact that there's more collegiate squads starting to get these B teams, right? These secondary rosters. This is got a lot of power inside of them. We got to see a good display of it. I like to see this kind of stuff coming out from Bay State Blue, even though UT Dallas, of course, have to be on the receiving end of it. You get to see a lot of the highlights. You get to see the Jurassic coming in, a player who was a star during their time inside of amateur, came in here full force, was terrifying. And you even talked about it earlier. Potato, fantastic, was on the main roster, went back over to the secondary roster, is still fantastic. And then you just look across the board and there's just so much power that is inside of this roster. This is a scary one that people are going to have to keep their eyes on.
There's a reason why I think Bay State has made such a profound step this split, where they've gone from basically perpetually looking like a competitor for playoffs inside of UPL and looking for a roster that worked with all these substitutions, to now their second roster is having success. Their primary roster is doing great inside of UPL. The expectations for them are incredibly high, and a large part of that has to do with a backup roster being this talented gives you so many options for scrims, so many options to compete with people that are at a higher level, right? If you're playing against a team like this that's able to beat UT Dallas on a consistent basis, on a day-to-day basis, then you're going to improve pretty dramatically. I think it pushes the players on the main squad, and it makes this team a lot better. And you can see that very, very heavily. The ideas are there when it comes to trying to construct what a game is supposed to look like. You can appreciate that from the coaching of the entire team, the organization being able to put resources into them. They're a set of talented players that clearly showed what they were capable of doing today, beating, again, a really high competitor in the South. This was not an easy opponent. I know they had some substitutions on the day, but nonetheless, you got to come up with a win like this, even with substitutions, because now all of a sudden the competition for some of the lower playoff spots, third, fourth place, gets so much more interesting for these teams.
I'm so excited to see how this continues to make its way up, see all the storylines that just unfolded in front of us here today. But that's it for us here. That was a full best of 3 series that we got to have, a collegiate showdown between UTD and Bay State Blue. So we want to give a shout out to all of the people who came out and watched and joined us for this this beautiful TriCast that we had here, where we had our special guest here. But thank you again. I hope you all have yourselves a great night, and we will catch you next Friday.